Got an amazing stat for you here. And I was just telling Xander this. In the last 23 years, the city of Boston now has 13 championships. I mean, I can't think of another region that has more titles than Boston. 6 Patriot titles and Super Bowls. You got 2 Celtic titles now after the win last night. You've got a Stanley Cup with the Bruins, and you've got 4 World Series titles with the Red Sox. That's amazing. The last 23 years. 23 years. 13 championships. Why is that? You got great organizations, great front offices. Think of the people that have been running those franchises. Just look across the board. Cam Neely with the Boston Bruins was running the front office. Absolutely spectacular executive, not just a great player. Now you have Brad Stevens taking over for Danny Ainge. It's just such a well-run organization where all those teams in that city. Dave Dombrowski and Theo Epstein ran the Boston Red Sox. And, of course, you had Belichick with the Patriots. There's no coincidence. Front offices for those championships and how you build titles. Look at Brad Stevens. Who would have thought the guy who lost 2 NCAA finals in a row at Butler was going to go on and also lost the finals, I think in 22. And he loses the finals in the NBA, would go on to take what Danny Ainge did and now deliver an NBA championship, number 18 for the Boston Celtics. And when you put that in context with what the Eagles have done since Jeffrey Lurie's owned that team over 30 years, personally for me, I don't see it with the instability in the front office and the meddling of the owners. You don't have that kind of success that you have in that place in Boston. Dude, Dave Dombrowski, he's the best GM in Philadelphia. There's no question about it. Titles in Florida, titles in Detroit, Boston. Dave Dombrowski is the best GM. It's not Howie Roseman. In Philadelphia, who's got the best record in baseball right now, by the way? Who's got the best record? Tell me. The Phillies, right? There's no coincidence to Dave Dombrowski. This comes down to building titles. And when you have, see, I'll tell you something that Marcus Hayes said a couple weeks ago on Birds 365. You guys keep giving Howie all the love and all the kudos that he's done for building a competitive team. And you know what? Like you said, there's 2 arguments to this. Seals, do you want to cover the Carolina Panthers or be the Arizona Cardinals? No. But there's also about delivering. Delivering championships. Now, look, I don't think this is a bad statement for Howie. What is it? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. In 8 years, they've been to 2 Super Bowls. That's not horrible. That's not horrible. Okay, it's not. It's not horrible. Let's start the show off as we always do. Big Sills. Again, that's exceptional management with those franchises. Now, I think the Bruins underachieved a little bit under Cam. I think they should have won more. They've been to multiple finals. I think the Lightning are a little bit better of an organization, but hey, especially in the East, and maybe the Flyers now with Tortorella will start to aim towards that direction, and I believe they will. But that's incredible. 13 world titles in the last 23 years from the city of Boston. It all starts with management, coaching, player evaluation, Hey, after they got rid of Kyrie Irvin up in Boston, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum took off. They got rid of them, and they got better. That's what management does. All right. 36 days to the start of training camp. 36 days. I'm gonna say something here about noise heading into training camp. Not just with the Eagles here. I want to show you what absolute noise is. I appreciate everybody coming aboard. By the way, do me a favor. We're trying to get to 200 likes again. Please hit the like button. We thank you. How many people had a problem with the noise going around with Aaron Rodgers not showing up to mandatory minicamp? How many people had a problem with that? The optics of it, what have you. Did you have some sort of like problem? Martin goes, I do. Jason goes, I do. Jets should have squashed that. No shitting on my Jets. Corey, you're a Jets fan? I don't know, man. Steve goes, who cares? I'm going to talk to you about noise going into a training camp that you're 36 days out from. Okay, get this. Here's Raj. Not me. He told them about previous arrangements. You know what his previous arrangements are with the Jets now? What do you think they are? How do you think this will sit when I tell you this? So, Aaron Rodgers told the Jets that he had a previous engagement during the time of mandatory minicamp so that he could go overseas and do experimental drugs? What? I'm going to say this again to you. Aaron Rodgers went overseas to do experimental drugs to miss minicamp? I guess he goes in one of those huts and those tents and whatever he does, and he smokes his brains out overseas somewhere where it's legal. I don't know how the NFL doesn't drug test this guy. So you miss a minicamp because you want to do experimental drugs. That's a reason to miss minicamp? You're not all in, guy. You're all in on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon. That's the kind of shit right there you look at and you go, you know, for all the shit you say about Hurts, me included, dude, he's not missing mandatory minicamp because he wants to smoke a joint. I mean, that's ridiculous. You got your entire life to go do experimental drugs and fry your brain out. Why in the world would you take time away? Tyron Smith, who just got to New York and is going to block for Aaron Rodgers, showing up at minicamp. And he's accomplished too. Okay? You miss minicamp because you want to smoke dope. Seals, could you and Xander get Brian Dawkins on? Yes, we can do that. We'll work on that. By the way, Merrill Reese was supposed to be on today, but it's Xander at 3:30. He's on tomorrow. He's at a golf tournament. He's not being able to get off the golf course. And I want to congratulate Merrill on winning the Pete Rozelle Award going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So we will do that tomorrow. You'll never win with Rodgers simply due to that mindset. That's right, dual threat. Dude, you know, again, the Eagles have had a lot of noise around their building this offseason here. But that guy just doesn't get it. He never gets it. Get this. Even if you don't. Now here, let's do this. If you were the head of your company and it was a symposium where, you know, you had everybody coming together, you really didn't want to do it. But you did it because the optics were good for everyone to see leadership. And you make $55 million. Wouldn't you do it? Even if you didn't want to do it. This is what I'm telling you about Hurts with that comment about Nick. Hey, Jalen, sometimes you got to say and do shit you don't want to say or do. Because you're the face of the franchise. It comes with the job. But here's why, and Xander doesn't want to give the kid a pass because he makes $51 million. And he's right to a point, but there's also this. Tom Brady wasn't the leader of the Patriots right out of the gate. It was Teddy Bruschi and some of them other guys. He acquired his leadership as he went on and continued to put wins together and championships together. That's how he developed his leadership. I think leadership is something that you grow on and you learn how to be a communicator with your teammates, no matter what the business is. If you can't communicate with your team, you can't lead. It's impossible to lead, no matter how talented you are. Aaron Rodgers is the prime example and the antithesis of what Brady is. Brady is the ultimate communicator, not just the ultimate quarterback. You've got to communicate with your team. And like I said, no matter what field it is, if you can't communicate, you can't win. So when an innocuous question, what's Nick's role? I don't know. Lie. Give the optics. I think that's what the Eagles are saying. I get up every morning and do shit I don't want to do for a lot less. Daniel, that's why Xander's attitude and your attitude, you're not going to sell that attitude to you and Xander and to many people. And me too. I mean, look, hey, you make $51 million, guy. Get up off your ass and do the right thing. Even shit you don't want to do. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? The simplest things sometimes are the hardest things to do. Senor goes lie. Well, we've learned one thing, Senor. He's not going to embrace anybody. He doesn't embrace anybody. How about this? You could call it a lie, or you could call it being a company guy. Is that a better word for you, Senor? Jalen's not a good company man. He's not. Nor is Rodgers. He's not a good company man. I'm not at minicamp because I want to smoke dope. To do experimental drugs? Where in the player leadership handbook is that? Where's that? There lies the difference between Tom Brady. Tom Brady's working with Tom House and his wide receivers in Southern California. Aaron Rodgers is overseas smoking weed in a teepee. There lies your difference. There lies the difference. And why that guy has one title and that other guy has 7. Yeah, but I'm going in my 20th year. I don't need minicamp. No. But the other 89 do. That's why, again, we fall into this conversation. How important is it? Yesterday, and I don't want to put words. We'll talk to him again at 3:30, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he was like this, it's June 17th. It's not that great a deal. We'll see if it's a deal. That's not something you're going to turn on and off. That's a mindset. That's now. And we'll be in September. They're not changing that. You think Jalen Hurts is all of a sudden going to have an epiphany and be a different guy in September? And so is Nick? They're not. That's who these men are. You have to work at that. Either guy is not willing to work at that. So is it a big deal on June 17th. Today's the 18th, obviously. Yeah, because you know why? Nothing will change in September 6th when you line up against Green Bay. Why Jalen the only person USA can't be honestly? Why Jalen the only person USA can't be honestly? Not sure if we could put that a little bit better there, Philly. Fat Mac, let's put it up there a little bit better there. Dan Sileo looks for anything to gossip. Not gossip. I'm talking leadership here, something you'll never know about, Dick Train. You'll never know about leadership. You have no idea what you're talking about. Touch football's not it. Okay? He said he doesn't know what that man's role is. We don't know what his role is. Let it go. Bro, I'm talking to you about how other quarterbacks, the reason they don't win also is because that's not something that's a common thing. Remember what I showed you the other day about Brady talking about football being hard? You don't have to be exceptional. You just have to do the things that people are unwilling to do. And Hurts is unwilling, so is Rodgers, to go the extra step on being a better teammate. And will it matter on September 6th? Of course it's going to matter, because that's who those men are. They're not going to change. Like I said, it's not just Xander too saying that. It's everyone. Hey, it's June 17th. That's not the point. That's who they are. They're not going to change. They're set in their ways. Well, remember, what's the other comment? That's just who Jalen is. Well, what would make it change? What would make it change? I got to tell you, Patrick Mahomes being raised by his dad, who is a professional baseball player, has done a wonderful job at preparing him on what it's like to be in a dugout or in a locker room. And here's why. You imagine being on that 86 Mets team, and you got Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden, Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter. You got all those maniacs in that locker room. And the dynamic that you have to go through each and every single week or every single game or every single day to know the personalities, especially in that locker room. You had Nails in that thing too. You had Lenny Dykstra in that, Wally Blackman, all them guys with massive personalities, Howard Johnson. And those guys were fighting in the locker room. You got guys, that's right, M. Reyes, coked up Strawberry. But you got to deal with everybody. Tom Brady dealing with Antonio Brown or a murderer and Aaron Hernandez. Will it matter in September? I say it does. Because we're not talking about fixing a play or fixing an offense. We're talking about personal behavior here. This is who those guys are. Yeah, I don't think you can all of a sudden think that Jalen's going to be a different dude. I just don't. Aaron Rodgers in the league 20 years. Has he changed who he is? Why would Hurts? He's never going to back Nick. Personally, I don't think the Eagles know how to handle Jalen right now. We're going to get into all this here. And by the way, there was a comment made yesterday. I forget who made it. Maybe John McMullen. By the way, please hit the like button here. What exactly was that comment that people are now making, that 95% of the offense is not going to be new, but there's different responsibilities now for Hurts? What does that entail? What does different responsibilities mean? Jalen's got more responsibilities this year in the offense, which means he didn't have any last year. Okay. What does that mean? Because I'm confused. Is the offense new or not? Or is there just different responsibilities in the old offense or in the new offense? What are we talking about here? Different responsibilities, people are saying. That's what Howard Eskin is saying also. So let's take a look at some of those. What are the responsibilities? Reading defenses. Well, he's limited at that. So he's got to work on that. I think we're going to be able to figure out right here why he's been struggling in 9-on-7. Reading defenses. He hasn't been very good at that since he came into the league. He wasn't very good at that in college. And it's gotten a little better. It has. The offenses haven't been very creative. RPO is not a creative offense. It's a decision-making offense, which he's exceptional at. What they're trying to do is make him into being more of a thinker. And I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm just saying that's not something that he's done in his entire professional and collegiate career. He's been more of a reactor. That's why the RPO fit his system and his style of play better. Because he's an exceptional reaction guy. Tom Brady couldn't run that offense. Peyton Manning could never run that RPO. Joe Burrow could never run that RPO. There's very few guys in that league that can make the decisions that he made. He's a decision maker. But when it comes to reading defenses, no way. He's limited. At best. So there's more responsibility on reading defenses. That's going to take time. Setting pass protection. Now that Kelsey's gone, who's going to set the pass protection? Landon Dickerson? Tyler Steen? Can't get the tackles. They're too far out wide. Is that going to fall on Jalen? So Jalen now has this to pick up. He's going to have to do pre-snap reads, reading defenses, and he's going to have to set protection, something that he's never done in 3 years with the new offense or new responsibilities. I'm betting on Jalen Hurts. Okay. I'm naming things that he's poor at. And you know it. The blitz pickup. He's terrible at blitz. So he's got to read blitz pickup, set the offensive blocking scheme, and he's got to read defenses. All things he's not very good at. All things he hasn't been asked to do in the last 3 years. Last year, he was one of the worst in the league in blitz pickup, and you had a Hall of Fame center. Where would that get better now? You had a Hall of Fame center last year, and you were one of the worst teams in the league. So Cam Jurgens is going to be a better impact on blitz pickup? Or is it going to be more of Saquon Barkley being used in that role? I don't know. I don't know. Because if we got more responsibility for him, what does this all entail? Get this. This is before he throws the ball. You understand this. This has nothing to do with getting the ball to somebody. And the pre-snap reads. He's got to know where to go with the ball. I was poor at walking. I learned. I'll say this to you. Well, I'm not paying a baby $51 million. So this is before you throw the ball. You got to start reading defenses, which he's probably a C. You got to set the blocking scheme, which he's never done. It's incomplete. I don't know if he can do it. Blitz pickup. He was terrible. And pre-snap read. Okay? All of those things have resulted in, like John McMullen said 2 days ago, everybody else played well, but he was having issues. And somebody are going like this. Well, it was only June 17th. You think that gets better in 36 days? Are you crazy? This is professional football, not the junior football league when you're in junior high school. Assuming Barkley becomes a force in the running game, 20 touches a game, wouldn't that help Hurts in the passing game? Well, the last 2 years, you've had 1,200 yards rushing between Sanders and DeAndre Swift. You had two backs go for 1,200 yards as an average. It wasn't like your run game stunk. You just got away from it. You got away from Hurts running. Dude, Saquon Barkley's running attack is not going to impact Hurts' play in the passing game. Jalen's passing was a result in 22 because of the RPO and the way he was a dual threat guy. He's no longer that dual threat guy. Will Barkley create more space for Hurts to have limited carries with more impact than yards? That is totally true, and that could be what they're hoping for. Yes. Yes. Barkley loosens everybody up, okay? And they're concerned about him. All of a sudden, when you go into a pass play, nobody's guarding him anymore. And he takes off the field. He has 8 carries a game instead of 15 carries a game, but he still gets you 60 yards. That's impact. And that's impact from Kellen Moore. Absolutely. Absolutely. Zader said something the other day about more quality yards. There's no question 22. We're all low in numbers compared to 23, but they were more quality yards because they were more effective yards in critical situations. The situational success they had in 22, how many times did you find yourself in 3rd and long in 23? At least 70% of the time. In 22, they were never in 3rd and long. Very rarely were they in 3rd and long. He has been heated on his whole football career. I'm not sure what that means. I think you mean hated. Hated? No. Well, let's just say this, Fat Mac. Nick Saban hated on him. You forget that. The greatest college coach in the history of college football hated on him. He took his starting assignment away from him, and he was the Southeastern Conference Player of the Year. So if you're sitting here giving me shit for saying stuff about Jalen Hurts, Nick Saban hated on his ass. Now all of a sudden they want to throw their arms around him and pretend he's a Bama guy. He's kind of a Bama guy. He finished his career at OU. Was a runner-up in the Heisman, running the RPO. The Eagles with Vic will be better. You do not know that. That is a guess. Got to see it. It seems better. Sills, you know these sissies can't handle the truth. Dude, I'm not really ripping anybody here. I'm talking about a lot of work to do before September 6th. Okay? Sills, either Hurts makes $50 million and should flex his franchise status to fix things, or Hurts makes $50 million and needs to be a company guy and dance. Okay? I completely agree. I completely agree. But that's what Angelo said yesterday. Maybe he did stand up. Maybe he did say, hey, man, you want me to be more transparent? Okay. I don't know what the guy's role is. And I think Jalen Hurts was being honest about it. But to Xander's point, how does that help the team? Isn't it a fine line? I don't know what's right or wrong here a little bit. I don't like to straddle fences here. Is Jalen wrong for speaking his mind? Or is he wrong for not being a company guy when his team needs it? And to Xander's point, it's July 17th, Sills. Maybe he doesn't do this in season. Maybe he does it now to rally the troops going in to training camp. I think that's knowing how to be a leader again. It goes back to what I was saying. I don't think he knows how to be a leader. Because I happen to agree. On June 17th, I think you talk some bullshit. September 6th or 7th after the game, I don't think you talk any bullshit. I think you have come to Jesus conversations. Hey, we didn't play very well, and we didn't coach very well. That organization refuses to talk like that. I think they refuse any kind of negativity. From the coach to the players, they never get on anyone's ass. When's the last time a coach in Philly got on a player's ass in a press conference? Shit, I've heard Andy Reid say shit about Travis Kelce. I've heard him say shit about Mahomes. I heard Bruce Arians rip Tom Brady. And Brady responded by winning a Super Bowl. I mean, it hurts, bro. He sucks. The Eagles are that's not. I'm talking about addressing an issue. You're talking about crying and quitting. Nobody's talking, Prince, about crying and quitting. You're talking about addressing an issue. Can't you differentiate between the two or no? The Commanders are a mess, and so are the Giants. Of course, Dick Train compares the Eagles to the two shittiest franchises in the NFC East. Just keep motivating. Just keep motivating him. I'm betting on Hurts. Okay. Keep motivating him? I don't need to motivate anybody making $50 million. My direct deposits motivate me. And the amount motivates me. You think some fucking coach speech when I'm in the pros motivates me? Give me a break where some dickhead on the radio or some guy doing a show like this motivates me. What are you, out of your mind? People are so simple-minded thinking sometimes that you think because a guy says something. When my paycheck is $50 million, I don't need somebody kissing my ass and rubbing my nuts. I don't need that. My direct deposit speaks to that. You crazy? Hey, man, media keep motivating him. Motivating him? He's weaker than I thought. And I'm not saying that that's true. That's your take. And Mr. Perez says there's no issue. When asked the question, you don't know what your coach does on the team anymore. Your head coach. I don't know what he does. That's not an issue. Or quitting in the Buck game. That's not an issue. Blitz pickup is not an issue too. Here's something to think about. I mean, we're going to get into this other question here. All those things that I mentioned are things he has to work on. What's the one positive? Hey, what are the positives? Let's do this. What are the positive things that Hurts does as a quarterback? It's not lead. He's a front runner. Things go south. I haven't seen him pull the team out of the trouble in a trouble. He's a front runner. Biggest front runner I've seen in the league. He is a front runner. If that's the case, then why does Jalen need to be a leader? Those guys get paid. They don't need a leader. Because that position is about motivating men in your locker room, not the fucking media. Jalen Hurts is a front runner until he shows me when his team needs him the most, he can pull his team out of a 1-7 tailspin. Everything was great when they were winning, but when things went south, he had no answers. Coach had no answers. The organization had no answers. Zero. Zero. I'll give you a great example here of something. Josh Allen pulled his team out. They were losing a bunch of games with Ken Dorsey. Didn't they go on like a 9-2 run to go into the playoffs? And remember something. It's the AFC. It's not Baker Mayfield killing you in a ball game. Here, let's do this here. I want to show you something else here. I wrote this down just to show you how the hypocrisy of your $50 million guy. So here are the top 5 guys, salary-wise, in the NFL now. Lawrence is number 1, tied with Burrow at $55 million. Goff is 53. Herbert's third at 52.5. Lamar's 52. Hurts is 51. There's only one guy on this list with a postseason record above 500. It's Jared Goff. And here are the best quarterbacks in the league, according to PFF, because you probably think I'm biased. So I went with BFF. Mahomes 1, Lamar Jackson 2, Burrow 3, Allen 4, Herbert 5. That's not my list. That's who PFF thinks are the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. The best quarterback in the league is not the highest paid guy. Gee, I wonder how that works. Oh, wait. I saw that in New England for 20 years. Look at Dick Train. Golf's trash. Well, he's been to 2 NFC title games. Has your boy? This guy throws for 4,500 yards. He's got a postseason record that's above 500. He's taken 2 different franchises to conference title games. I mean, he's winning in Detroit. He's winning in Detroit. Harold goes, golf's better than Jalen? Yeah. He's done more. He's been in the league longer, but he's done more. Boy, I love how people look at people's resumes and just ignore them. It's like ignoring Purdy's resume. He's done more than Hurts too, in a shorter time frame. He's thrown for $4,000, 30 touchdowns, been to 2 conference title games, been to a Super Bowl, went to a 5th quarter in a Super Bowl. You're making it sound like some of these guys don't have better resumes than your boy. They do. He's got a long way to go. My point with this guy is he's still in the early stages of learning so much. Blitz pickup, pre-snap reads. I mean, the Eagles, in my opinion, have had one coach around him in 4 years that was worth the shit. The rest of these guys have been, I don't know. Hurts is not even sure he likes the Kellen Moore offense. That may very well be Philly D, because at the end of the year, San Francisco is going to have to pony up $60 million if they think Purdy's the guy. Or if Kyle Shanahan thinks he could find another dude. Remember something. Kyle Shanahan is pretty much 50 for 50 right now. He's 50-50 on quarterbacks. And I would give the lesser when it came to evaluating him because he fucked up those 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance and got lucky with Brock Purdy. And I'm not sitting there telling you Purdy is going to carry a football team across the finish line. Man, you sound like a fool, but I love you. Okay, I don't care what you think, man. I have resume and work that proves my point. That's not an opinion. Okay? That's incorrect. The Bills changed the OC for Josh Allen. And the Eagles changed the OC for Jalen Hurts. Oh, wait. For Nick Sirianni. Well, Jalen got the OC fired too, guy. He's part of it. Oh, wait. Not him, though, right? That's so pathetic. That's so pathetic and asinine that you don't blame the quarterback for getting the OC fired. The quarterback played a factor in it too. Are you in here telling me, some of you, that you don't think Jalen Hurts is the cause of Brian Johnson losing his job? No matter who you are, if you suck and you're the player, you're responsible for your coordinator or your coach losing his job too. Josh Allen, also. By the way, Josh Allen is now, or Ken Dorsey's now the OC in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. And Deshaun Watson. And Jim Schwartz is on the other side of that as the D coordinator. Sills, to Angelo's point, minicamp is for teams' new teammates, coaches, and schemes. What new teammates? Bob, what new teammates on offense are you talking about? What new teammates? What are you talking about? John McMullen said everybody looked pretty good except Hurts. What are you talking about? That means Jalen is also the reason Steichen got a head coaching job. Yeah, because the proper system played to Jalen's skill set. That's what I've been saying since Steichen left. Yes, thank you very much for validating my point. Yes. That's why Shane Steichen got the job at Indianapolis because Jalen Hurts is playing 22. Correct. And he did such a great job that Anthony Richardson got drafted. Yes. Anthony Richardson's not known for being some superior passer. Yes. Yes. Completely agree. Shane got the job. Yes. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Jalen Hurts did such a fucking great job. In 2022, Anthony Richardson with 51% completion percentage at Florida. Xander and I were talking. He wasn't exceptional at Florida. He was a great athlete at Florida. And when you watched him in that Shane Steichen offense, you were like, hey, there's something there. To me, Anthony Richardson looked like the second best quarterback in that draft last year or the year after. Stroud and him. Wasn't Bryce Young second. It was Anthony Richardson before he got hurt. That's another thing. Last two quarterbacks that Shane Steichen has coached that have been his starters have all been injured. He's got to do a better job of protecting his quarterbacks. He knows that too. That's why the Eagles went to the 23 style. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay? Sills, that Super Bowl in 17 is the only one we will see until that front office steps out of the coaching and lets the coaching and pick their own players. You don't really have to pick their own players because coaches, these pro coaches, do it this way. They don't sit around and watch a ton of college games. Your personnel scouting department comes to your position coaches and they go, here's a list of 50 guys that we think. You got to trust your evaluators in your building. And defensively, that's not been something that you can. You know what's crazy too? It's like all of a sudden you guys are all enamored by these new draft choices that they have. What about the draft choices that they've had build up to this draft that you just had in April? Have they been exceptional? Name me one exceptional player that they've drafted on defense in the last 6 drafts. Let's see. Jalen Carter. Okay, who else? Name me one. One defensive guy in the last 6 drafts. Who? You're making it sound like they've done a great job over there. The Georgia guys have been average to mediocre at best. I mean, so look again. We're talking about issues that can be resolved. My God. Again, I love how people have the quitter mentality. Dude, if somebody told, I don't think you guys have ever been coached in here. You think coaches tell you what you're doing right? Or do they spend more time with you telling you what you're doing wrong? I would say the majority of you in here could never be coached in your entire life because you don't know what coaching is. Coaching is not talking to you about the things you do well. They talk and work on the things that you suck at. Putting your left hand down, playing right guard or left tackle, putting you in uncomfortable situations, dropping you more times in coverage, seeing if you can cover, working on your cover skills. If I was Vic Fangio, you know what I'd be doing with Bryce Huff? I'd be dropping him in coverage the entire OTAs. I'd be working on his tackling because he stinks at both. And you keep working that because you don't have a lot of time in today's NFL. Okay? Seals, you mentioned that Josh Allen helped the Bills to 6-1, which is half true. The Bills made changes at OC, I know that. Josh, unlike the Eagles, hence the downfall. I'm not sure what that means. I know they went on a great run and they went 6-1 when they changed the OC, and Josh Allen took complete responsibility for getting Ken Dorsey fired. I never heard anything out of that mouth of your quarterback. I never heard any of that. He couldn't back Brian Johnson and he couldn't back his head coach just a couple weeks ago. Give me a break, dude. Guy's a front runner. And you can disagree with me. I don't care. Until I see him pull a team out when you've had adversity. What's he done with adversity? You had adversity on tenfold last year. Paying a guy $50 million, like Xander says, for a reason. Front runner. I'm sorry. I'm not there. And then you don't have enough leadership skills at the head coach. You know what? I got to say something about Nick here. Is Nick trying to make it work? You know, I went back and read John McMullen's article. I don't know, man. There's a part of me that made me think, well, I think I'm going to step away from this here. You know? And if I'm the problem, let's see if Kellen can fix it. That's how you keep your job. That's how you keep your job. Well, maybe it is me. Maybe the quarterback and I are, hey, let's get someone else in here. Play call. Happens all the time. Nick Sirianni has a track record of this. Did he not give the play calling over to Shane Steichen? John McMullen's article kind of a little bit rubbed me in that direction. Well, he's got a track record of it. He handed the play calling off to Shane. Saved his job. Maybe that's what he's doing here. I mean, do you give him the benefit? 3 playoff appearances? You know, Super Bowl? NFC title game? I mean, you didn't want to give Doug the benefit. He's been given the benefit. Maybe you let it play out here. I'm just saying. You know, it's one thing for me to slash and rip, but there's another thing for me to go, you know, has Nick Sirianni ever shown the propensity? Hold on. No, it's called having a conversation, Jay. It's not contradicting, dickhead. It's maybe there is another side to Nick. You see, the difference with me is I'm not going to be hell-bent like certain people that will say to you that Nick Sirianni is the greatest coach in the history of the Eagles and that they would want Nick Sirianni over Andy Reid or Doug Peterson. That's not me. I'm not going to be in a position to say that. I will never be that way. If coaches hey, every single person flip-flopped on Carson Wentz, who, by the way, is fitting in very well in Kansas City. Shit, Kansas City may have the best backup quarterback in the league. Okay? Just might. Just might. Credible. He just might. Again, do I believe that? No, but there could be something to John McMullen's article. All right. Let's go to the second topic here. By the way, we're going to take a look at the Baltimore Ravens, the Week 14 opponent. We'll take a look at that as well. But here's another question for you. Do me a favor. Give me what you would think would be your evaluation of Jalen Hurts in the last 3 years starting. Just simply like a letter grade, like ABC. ABC. I don't think there's a D or F here. So where would you put that into the context of how you look at these last 3 years? Because that's how you look at consistency. A B? So if you take the 22-year away, the other 2 years have been B and A. Is that right? First year was an A. Give Peterson, right, 2017, and Reed 2020s all day. So again, okay, so what would you call the 2021 season? First year starter? I actually think it was not that bad. I'll give it a high C+. He wasn't really the engine on that team. He was more the caboose. 22 was an A, no question about it. 23 was more of a C+, B-. So we're probably in that B range. Right? Somewhere in there? A B? Okay. Is that good enough to win a Super Bowl? Can you win a Super Bowl with a B quarterback? I think so, with the right personnel around him. With the right personnel, I think so. Okay? I think you can. Now, let's ask this question. Do the Eagles front office have questions about Jalen Hurts right now, heading into the 24 season? Do they, in your opinion? Do they have questions? What would be the biggest question they have? This is going to be interesting here. What would be the biggest question you have going into 24 with Hurts? If you were the front office. Leadership. Absolutely. Adjusting. Absolutely. I like that one, actually, adjusting. Health? Really? I don't think so, health. I think for a guy that takes a lot of hits back there, I think he's been pretty healthy. I wouldn't say health would be something on my priority list. I wouldn't use the word health. So leadership and adjusting in the pocket. Okay? Anything else that you would have? Not being able to spread the ball around? That's a fact. So what? Reading defenses. Command. I think that's leadership. Quick decision. I don't think he have quick. Well, Richard, his quick decision was his RPO, and he was excellent at it. Beating the blitz. I like that. Again, I'm asking you what you think the front office is thinking right now about him. Hey, by the way, these are all question marks. And here's a question mark in Cincinnati. Can that guy stay healthy? Here's Buffalo. Can that guy be smarter? Here's Baltimore. Are we going to use him right? Here's Herbert. Will better coaching matter? Hey, Brandon Staley versus Jim Harbaugh? There's no more excuses for Justin Herbert now. You got one of the best play calling head coach signal callers in the league. If you're not going to playoffs and winning them now, son, it's not just about putting up better Kirk Cousins numbers. You got to start winning now. Every single organization. You just gave a guy $50 million in Jacksonville. You don't think there's a ton of questions down there with that guy? Can he be consistent? Is he coming along and reading defenses? This is not isolated to Philly. You think this is a whole conversation about this goes on in every fucking market. Here's Dak Prescott. Here's Dak. Can Dak win in big moments? That's the worst one. Can Dak win in big moments? Can he win in big moments? I don't know if you can fix that. Because that's choking. That's Rory McIlroy stuff. Missing 3-foot putts on the 72nd hole of the U.S. Open. You can't fix that. That's who you are. Missing a 3-foot putt in one of the biggest majors on the planet. You can't miss that. Here's the shit with Purdy. I'll say it with Purdy. Can he win without the talent around him? I'll tell you this. I think Jalen can win more with lesser talent than Purdy can. Purdy does a better job getting the ball in the hands of people. Less turnovers. I think that comes with the passing and the way he's being coached. So, Here's what you got going on here with Jalen. Leadership issues. This is what you're saying this is what you think the front office is thinking about Jalen Hurts. Leadership issues. Adjusting in the pocket. Reading defenses. And beating blitzes. I'll tell you flat out how I'm going to go after the Eagles. I'm going to blitz Jalen Hurts as much as I can. I'm going to bring the house. Every single new center, new coordinator, quarterback who struggles with it, it won't be a day I don't blitz. I am going to bring the house every single time I can until he shows he's fixed that. And if he's struggling reading defenses, adjusting, leadership, setting, remember, he's got to set the protection. He's got to know what protection to set. Isn't it crazy? You got all this talent. And the only thing he really added was Barkley. But Barkley gets negated. You know why Barkley's addition doesn't matter? Because of the minus of Kelsey. So you got the same talent you did a year ago. Nothing's changed. Except the responsibilities for the quarterback. Can leadership be addressed? I don't know. Brady seemed to work on it. But to me, leadership is being a better teammate. I think Jalen Hurts, one of his biggest problems he has, he's not a great teammate. And I'm not talking about being a buddy-buddy to somebody, going up and drinking Slurpees with someone. I'm talking about in-game stuff, practicing stuff. You rarely hear him talking about his teammates, too. Kelsey did. I don't know, just maybe that's me. Jalen is introspective. I don't want that in my quarterback. I want him to be an extrovert. And I'm not talking about a screamer. I'm talking about somebody who's going to say something productive, not destructive. And I'm not saying Jalen doesn't do either. I'm not saying any of that. It's funny there we go. It's funny what's going on in San Francisco right now with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk thinks he's more important than he thinks he is right now. Okay? He thinks he's more important. He thinks he's actually a major part, okay, of that offense. He's not. They're going to live without him. And he knows it. They're totally going to live without him. He doesn't get it. Okay? We own the Eagles 21-15-1. They told him they don't want him. Eagle fan. This guy Ayuk thinks that because he had a good season last year on a team that's exceptionally talented, that he's the major point of that football offense. Dude, he's not. He's a good football player. He's a good player, but he's not really a major focal point of that football team. He's not their best receiver. You can win without Brandon Ayuk. You can't win without Trent Williams, George Kittle, McCaffrey, and Purdy. Okay? Appreciate the likes. That's really great. Let's please get the likes up here. But again, to go back to Jalen here, So the front office has these issues going into 24. I don't think this is uncommon in other places. I just don't. Hey, can he get better as a leader? Yeah. Can he get better adjusting? Yeah. Can he get better at reading defenses? Yeah. Daniel says we have to remember as well, Jalen has never had to deal with adversity like they had to deal with last year. He's always been a winner, and that was new to him. Let's hope experiencing that helps him. Daniel, absolutely spectacular take. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dude, I'll give you a great point to that. Daniel, I'll give you a great point to that. So I get to the Buccaneers. I may have told some of you this. Dude, in my high school, I probably lost 5 games in 4 years. Okay? In college, I lost 5 times. I lost 10 times in 8 years. 10 times in 8 years. I get to the Bucks. We lost 12 games in my first year. I'd never seen anything like that. I couldn't believe how quick it was to surrender for many people. And you get gobbled up in that bullshit. As contagious as losing is, or winning is, contagious also happens to be on the side of losing. It's not a cool thing. And it happens, and it rolls. You look up before you know it, you got 10 losses. You're like, what? I'd never seen anything. I never experienced anything like that. I had never experienced anything like that. I had come from a college that in the regular season, we were 34-1. We were 34-1 in the regular season of my 3 years at UM. I left as a junior. 34-1. Get to the Bucks, I lose 10 games. What? I guess bashing Jalen is a daily topic for the next month. How is bashing talking about what the organization is looking at with him right now and questions they may have about your quarterback? Or exactly what does the new offense mean with new responsibilities is fucking bashing? You know what that comes down to? These new millennial guys, anytime you say anything that is constructive to anybody, they moan and they cry and they bitch. That's what you guys do. You fucking moan because you don't take to coaching. Tough shit. You're going to get coached here whether you like it or not. Because that's what coaching is about. Is telling you the shit you don't want to hear. That's what you are. Is people who don't want to be coached. Dude, you actually believe coaches are sitting around like, do you think Jeff Stoutland is coaching Tyler Steen? Great. He's kicking his ass to get him ready. Wow. I had some of the greatest coaches in the history of college and pro football coach me. Who have you had? I had the guy who drafted Lawrence Taylor draft me and coach me. Who'd you have? I had a college and Pro Football Hall of Fame coach me for 3 years. Who coached you? My D-line and coordinator were not only the best and won Super Bowls, but we're head coaches in the NFL and college football. Lamar Leachman coached me. You know who he coached? LT. Tom Landry coached me. Here's my point. Don't tell me what coaching, good coaching, or bad coaching is. What's a cookie? What the fuck are you talking about, dog? What a win. You don't get backslaps for being coached by great people. It's a lucky thing to be coached by great people. Holy cow. You got to be kidding me. To be coached by Nick Saban? I would never want to be coached by Lincoln Riley. That's right, Forte. It's a blessing to be coached by Jim Johnson or somebody like Jim Schwartz. Guys like that ilk. Guys like Andy Reid. I know that Angelo doesn't like him. I'm sorry. 5 NFC title appearances in Philly and another 5 now in Kansas City. I get it. Mahomes is there, but he had McNabb, and I don't really think a lot of McNabb. Okay? But you were still an NFL bust. You're right. Average years in the NFL are 3. I got credited with 3. You're right. So I was average. Thank you. No problem. I got a pension. I got a pension. Never liked McNabb. McNabb didn't take to coaching well. And he wasn't a very good teammate. So here, let's circle back to this. He's got work to do. Most importantly, I think being a great teammate. That's what I think. Sills wants control of the Eagles. If I wanted a coach do it, I would have done it a long time ago. Offered numerous jobs. Numerous jobs. Why do you think some of these coaches come on here? Shit, the guy who came on here, Kevin Colbert, who was the general manager of the Steelers, offered me a job. Tom Telesco offered me a job. He's now the Raider GM. Al Davis hired me, actually. Chiefs have guys getting arrested every week. Great player selection going on over there for sure. Yeah, totally great. You see that Matt Araiza is now going to be the punter? What a great pickup by the Chiefs. Unbelievably awesome. And they're not afraid. What did they call that kid? The punting god? Or punting Jesus? He's now the starting punter. There's only one punter in camp. And Andy Reid's going with the guy who was falsely accused of rape when everyone else was hammering the kid. Now he's the punter on the defending world champion back-to-back Kansas City Chiefs. You bet, baby. Okay, you bet. Now he's on the world champions. Punting Jesus. Awesome. Brett Veach and him taking a chance. You take a chance like that on a guy like that. You know why? Because they know, quite frankly, there is no chance. All they're doing is taking the public relations and people and the woke people who go, well, something had to have happened, even though he's innocent. See, the court of law doesn't matter. It's more about the court of public opinion that matters to most of you. Okay? What happened to their other punter? They cut him. They cut him. And now they got a guy who can change field position for them. So they got one of the top defenses in the AFC, and now they got a punter who could actually average 46 yards a punt. Holy cow, the Chiefs got better. We did the same thing with Carter. Yeah. But this was a guy who lost his profession and was accused of raping a girl in college in gang rape and lost his career. Jalen Carter was actually added. He was signed by the Bills. They cut him when that story came out, even though it wasn't true. And that's a fact. If Big Sills can't talk football because he's not in the Hall of Fame, you people will never even made varsity, shouldn't be talking football. Hey, underdog, I don't come from a place of Hall of Fame. I come from a place of failure and not living up to my expectations. That's where I come from. My issues were not anything to do with ability. My issues were everything to do with my mouth, my attitude. That's why. And I got sick. It just wasn't meant to be. So maybe that's why I'm harder on guys, is because you can't blow these opportunities. And when you see little tiny things that can make you great if you just work on them, that's where I come from. Maybe, I don't know, hard love or what have you. That's how I was coached. It's how I was always. Again, it wasn't, nobody screamed at me at Miami. What they did was they harped on the bullshit things that I did. The most production I ever had in my life was with Coach Johnson. Why? Because he knew me and he was a psychiatrist. He understood that. That's what he studied at Arkansas. He knew the personalities of his players. This guy was like a psychiatrist. And he knew how to get the most out of them. Because he knew player behavior, people behavior. That's what made him great. You think he was some sort of X's and O's brilliant guy? No. He knew people. He knew the right people. He knew the right people to hire players, whether you were a first rounder or whether you were a fifth rounder. It didn't matter. Or coaching. Dude, you ever wonder his head coaches never turned out to be shit? He hired people that fit his system. Same with Belichick. Any of those coaches ever go on to be anybody? No. They fit what he needed. Same thing. Saban's the only guy I've ever seen that's a savant coach like that. His coaches go on. Look at Sarkisian, man. Sarkisian was a great coach. Look at Lane Kiffin. It was like a rehabilitation center down in Birmingham. You go down to Tuscaloosa, it's like a rehab center. Lane Kiffin, what did he do with the Raiders in Tennessee? Nothing. Honestly, what did he do? He stunk. He wasn't a good coach. What did he do at Southern Cal? He gets them down there, builds them up. Now he's making $9 million a year at Ole Miss. His team ranked fourth in the country right now going into the 24th season. Kirby Smart, part of that lineage. Shit, the coach at Maryland was on that coaching staff. What's his name? Mario Cristobal was the O-line coach after Stoutland at Alabama. Do you know that? Mario Cristobal went and became the O-line coach. I think that's how that worked. Because Jeff Stoutland was the interim head coach at the University of Miami. And I think he went to Alabama, and I think Mario was at FIU at the time. And then Chip hired him to be the head or the O-line coach in Philly. I think that's how the progression worked. Stoughton was at the University of Miami. He was the offensive line coach there at UM when Bryant McKinney and all them guys were coming out of college. And he was putting all those great O-lines together. And he helped build that O-line for the 2000 team and the 2021 team that is considered the greatest college football team of all time. Jeff Stoutland built that O-line up and recruited many of those kids. Did a great job too. They named him. The only head coaching job that Jeff Stoutland has ever had has been as an interim coach at the University of Miami. Lane Kiffin had. I liked Matt Corral, actually. I did. I would love to play against. No. Sure you would. Let's see here. So again, it's not ripping. It's not ripping. The show started out. I want to circle this back. The show started out with leadership and Aaron Rodgers not showing up to minicamp because he wanted to smoke dope in Europe. Got to be all in when you're the starting quarterback in today's NFL. And that means you got to be the best teammate you can be, whether you want to be or not. Look at the guy. Mahomes looks like a spectacular teammate. He just looks like a great teammate. Brady was a great teammate. Burrow looks like a pretty good teammate. I think it's got to be hard for Brock Purdy to be a great teammate. You know why? Because you still got to overcome what people are looking at you going, 7th round draft choice? When's he going to turn into a pumpkin? You know what I mean? When's he going to turn into that pumpkin? Brady stopped showing up his last few years. When was that? Every year he was in Tampa, they won the division title. And they won the NFC Championship and a Super Bowl in 3 years down there. Or you must have been under some sort of misunderstanding that the Bucs, who hadn't gone to the playoffs in 9 years prior to him showing up, were doing great things down there. They were coming off the Jameis Winston 50 for 50 touchdown passes or whatever it was, and 50 INTs. 40 for 40, whatever it was. They won 3 division titles. NFC title and the Super Bowl. What do you mean he didn't show up? What are you talking about? Seals, can you ask Manny Diaz about Abdul Carter, Eagle rusher from Penn State? I will. Manny's over at Duke now. I think he'll do a decent job there. They did a really nice job. By the way, I asked him some questions about Michael Parsons. They never rushed him. They never used him in the pass rush the way that the Cowboys are using him. They never used him like that. They didn't know that he was a pass rusher like that. They had no idea. They had no idea, okay, that he was that good as a pass rusher. Like I said to you before, Dan Quinn got pushed into that by mistake because of the injuries they had at the perimeter. Look how easy it is for them to get their but I would say this to you. You got 36 days until the start of training camp here. Okay? And you've got to figure all this out. I think it matters. If everyone's ripping Rodgers for not being at minicamp and missing it for going to smoking weed, look at the little tiny things that it takes for you to look at, even when Hurts says something that he didn't even, I don't believe he meant it. And to Angelo's point yesterday, Angelo goes like this. He's like, you're kicking a kid's ass in Philly for saying what's on his mind. And hey, I think a lot of people are like Xander. They don't subscribe to that. Sil said he's not an Eagle fan multiple times. No way a real fan agreeing with all this pessimistic takes. He's not even being pessimistic because he's not even hoping for the best. Lord, what are you, a fucking mind reader? What do you think I think about when it comes to hoping for people? I'm not going to quantify myself to some dude with some picture in a chat box. You're out of your mind. I'm going to quantify that. Yeah, that's what I do all day long, is pray for people to fail in life. Now, that'd be somebody that's more up your alley. Don't do that shit. I couldn't be more wrong about a guy like Lamar Jackson. Great. Congratulations. Super. I was wrong. This is where, see, there's guys in here that are here that can't wait for me to be wrong. Me, I'm happy when I'm wrong. That means the player succeeded. Great. Good for him. It's more important for me that the player have a career than wreck dreams. I don't know how you don't root for somebody. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you Nakobe Dean's a good ball player when he's not. And he hasn't played. And you make excuses for him. And the organization puts him in right. Get this. Nakobe Dean gets written into starting lineups, not earned into starting lineups. Hurts is like the national debt ready to implode again. I don't think Jalen's going to implode, dude. I think you have. There's just a lot of people, man, who have not been coached very well or don't know what coaching is. Let's bring in Xander here. Co-host of Birds 365.
What's up, Big Cells?
They do a great job in the morning giving me topics too now. Just absolutely great stuff in the morning there. A lot of good people, a lot of good conversation. I hope everyone checks it out every single day here. Let me throw this at you here. You brought this up. New responsibilities. Maybe not a new offense at 95%. What do you think that means when you're hearing new responsibilities? I brought this up. Reading defenses. Does he have to now set protection? Blitz pickup. Pre-snap reads. Is this what we're talking about?
It's the first thing I think about. I think about the stuff Kelsey did, right? And then I also think about, we had Thomas Mott on the show this morning. I'm sure everybody in the chat knows Thomas Mott. He has a big YouTube channel. But anyway, he had a really good take on what Kellen Moore is going to bring, where it's 2 years ago, Hurts was throwing the ball around. Last year, he kind of got rid of that part of the game. Kellen's going to make him be that full encompassing quarterback where he's throwing the ball to the middle of the field. He's getting the ball to the backs. There's motion in the offense, all these little things. I think that's going to be a big part of what he has to pick up as well. But also the things you said about Kelce as well.
So do you think that Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore are a lot alike, or do you think they're completely different in how they got the best, or what they're going to get the best out of Hurts? Shane Steichen got that job, like somebody said earlier, because of the play of Jalen Hurts, which I completely agree. And I think that played a factor in Anthony Richardson being drafted to the Indianapolis Colts. So do you think he's going to look like that, Kellen Moore, in 22? Or how is he going to look in 24 here with Kellen Moore?
I think the whole thing has to be about making Jalen more of an all-around quarterback. He can throw the ball to the backs. It's like I said, throw the ball over the middle. All of those things. I don't know if he's going to be exactly like Steichen. I think that would be our hope, right? I mean, we went to the Super Bowl with Shane Steichen. Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate with Shane Steichen. So I think Kellen's going to take a lot from that offense, right? He'd be dumb not to take from that offense. So I don't know if they're going to be too much alike, though. I think Kellen is more maybe set in his ways because he's been doing it a while. Remember, that was like Shane's first 2 years as a play caller. So he kind of adapted a lot to Jalen, which was a great thing. I think that's what every offensive coordinator should do. I'm hoping Kellen can be that, but you know, I'm the more I sit and I watch and I look at Kellen's past, I actually think he's going to be the right fit if Jalen can comprehend what he's asking him to do. And that's going to be the big if. If Jalen can do what he's asking him to do.
Do you think it's going to take more than 1 year for him to remember something too? To be fair, you made a great point the other day. Steichen had 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, how long is it going to take realistically without even being able to criticize him? How long is it going to take for this offense to be on the same page?
Again,
8 weeks,
36 days to camp.
I mean, they don't get much offseason work. So Correct. What do we have? 8 weeks, 8 ball games, 10 ball games until they're even on defense. Everybody's excited about Vic Fangio. I mean,
don't you think Hurts will be better in 25?
Yeah, one of our best chatters in here. What's his name? Twiz, obviously Twiz. I don't know if he's in here right now. He's normally always in here, but he's been saying that. He's like, rip off the Band-Aids, let these guys learn in 24, 25 is our year. And I don't want to go there because that just dismisses that this season's going to matter.
Oh, I think he'll be way better in 25.
Talking about Kellen?
I'm talking about Hurts.
Because
I'm bringing up all this. Like, he's got to learn to do something that he hasn't done in 3 years. You know what that is? Setting pass protection.
Yeah.
So he has to come to the line of scrimmage, Xander, and he's got to be able to do this. Is it an odd front, even front? That's just the first, whether we're talking about how you're setting up odd, even fronts and pass protection. Then if they move in play, is he audibling out of it? Okay, what's my pre-snap read? Is it the free safety, strong safety, or are they bringing up a mic? What am I doing? Oh, wait, they just moved the strength. Then you got to talk about talking about progression reading. If they slide the defense to a strength or weakness, if you're on one hash or the other, he's got all. This is before you even throw the ball. This is why I say I agree with Twiz. 25 is where you're going to see the kid probably a little bit better and further along in his development.
Yeah, and you could say that for a lot of players on this team, but you're spot on about 25 being a year. But I mean, are the expectations of the team in 24 going to allow us to smooth sail into 25? You know, I mean, we're going into a year right now where if they don't succeed by whatever metrics Jeffrey Lurie has for the team, by whatever standard that he wants to achieve, we're going to have a whole new coaching staff. Because if Nick Sirianni gets fired this year, you could almost guarantee Kellen Moore will be gone too.
Will Vic be gone?
Well, who?
Vic.
I don't think so. Would
they fire the entire coaching staff?
Yeah, but if they hire a new coach, is he going to want a new coordinator?
Yeah.
Most do. Defensive too. So So,
Well, it depends on what kind of coach. If you go by the Eagles' way of hiring head coaches, they will hire a guy who's never had a head coaching job before, because that's just how they hire, which means they'll have more autonomy on picking the coordinators because
right.
that's why they're able to do that. You see, if you hire a Belichick's going to hire his own OC and his own DC. Or if you hire a Mike Vrabel, they're going to hire their own OC DC. But if you hire a first-year guy, you're going to have more say in that.
See, so Chuck says Vic is a one-year guy. I view Vic as them trying to get back to a Jim Schwartz type of defensive coordinator, an older guy. You don't need to go and find the young next great. Find an older guy, potentially can be here for 3 or 4 years and retire here, and you can get some stability on defense. That's how I view Vic, but it's all up in the air because if they don't succeed this year, we are at risk of a whole new regime, right? A whole new whole thing. I mean, coordinators, assistant coaches, everything. So that's why I think there's a lot this year on, a lot on Nick, but really a lot on Jalen Hurts too, because I've been saying the team's going to go as far as he's going to take us. And if he takes us far, we're going to get stability going into 25. If he doesn't, this thing's going to get wrecked.
You made a comment yesterday about, hey, Sills, it's June 17th. I made a point to you about leadership about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, it's now coming out that he missed minicamp because he wanted to go smoke pot over in Europe. And he wanted to go to one of those forward-thinking drug places for him to have whatever it is. I don't know. And I said, like you said the other day.
Story. What did Aaron Rodgers do?
Well, it's going to come out. That's what it is that he went over to Europe. He went to those places with that stuff that he did in the tent or in the cave, and he's going to be like smoking. Yeah, he went over to Europe.
All those weird drugs and shit like that.
All that weird stuff. And so that's why he missed training camp, and it was a predetermined date. And it's going to – the Jets don't want to say what it is. That's it right there. That guy Michael says it. Ayahuasca. That's what he's doing. Yeah. Natural LSD.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is now.
So he's missing training camp so he can get high. Anyway, I said this to you. I go, okay, that's a guy's personality in 20 years that never changed. And it's the difference between Brady and Aaron Rodgers is right there in a nutshell. Even though Rodgers is more talented than Brady, gifted as a skill set. What makes you think that Jalen is going to change his mentality, his way of thinking on June 17th versus September 6th, where they're going to be the same guy? He's not going to change his leadership skills in September. He's going to be the same guy he is June 17th. So
but outside of last year, Jalen's leadership wasn't a concern for anybody. Outside of last year, I mean, even back to his college days and his young pros. That's when everybody talked about the intangibles and all. Yeah. Now last year he had his first bit of real, adversity, and it didn't look great. And I've continued to say you have to be a different guy in different moments, and I don't think Jalen showed that, and that was not good for me. Everybody's giving him a hall pass. I don't know why our fans love to give people a hall pass. Guy's making $55 million, which is just stupid money, and he can't stand up and be a leader in moments. Now, I don't know what happens behind the walls of the locker room. Maybe he is a better leader than he appears to be, but he doesn't appear on the outside to be a great leader. He appears almost, I don't want to say selfish, but it looks selfish, if that makes sense. Like I don't think he has selfish tendencies, but he does seem to, it's Jalen's way or the highway, no matter what.
Can I make a comment? You think the front runner is a little bit too strong?
The thing you were talking about earlier in the show?
Yeah, front runner. Things are going great. He's great. Things go bad. He's got no answers for.
I don't want to call him a front runner, but you're right. I mean, it's tough to dispute that, right? Because last year was the first year in Jalen Hurts' tenure as the full-time starter that there was real adversity the roster was great, everything was going great, and then you lose however many games, one for 7 in the last, and he didn't really do anything about it. And I already vouched for I already told everybody yesterday to go rewatch that Bucs playoff game. It'll piss you off again to your core. Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm hoping that he can get. I'm hoping he learned from it. That guy, what's the guy's name? Daniel Bigelow or something. He brought up a good point about maybe Jalen learned from it. But I mean, he was also wrong in that Jalen has dealt with adversity before. Jalen dealt with it at Alabama. I thought he handled it beautifully at Alabama.
I did too.
I thought that was the best case of leadership I've ever seen from Jalen Hurts in his career. And it was a beautiful thing. I thought it was tremendous.
Yeah, I did too. But
this is where I wonder about the money thing you said yesterday. He didn't have a $255 million bag of money in Alabama. He was working toward that.
You know, Boomer Esiason
he was working toward that. Last year was the first season he played with that money.
Boomer Esiason came on our program and said the one thing he's going to have to do is learn to play with that contract. Yeah, I didn't know what that meant at the time. I really didn't know what it meant. But then I saw the New England game last year, and I saw the business decisions for the first time probably in his career where he was starting to make business decisions for his career. And it made me think a little bit that, wow, so is he a different guy now? Because let me tell you something, Xander, when you get to the pinnacle of getting your contract and you get that NFL helmet, you have a different mindset. It's like, what do I do next? How do I handle myself as being a collegiate athlete, being a professional athlete? It's night and day because you have so many people around you. Right. And you have to kind of close the room a little bit and close the circle a little bit. So I think he's dealing a little bit with that. Now, with that said, let me ask you this topic. Do you think the front office, and what questions do you think the front office has right now heading into 24 on? And you know what? I want to make this clear. Hey, you think there's an issue in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow? Yeah, stay healthy, kid. Will Joe Burrow be able to stay healthy to fulfill his destiny? I don't know. Will Josh Allen be smarter in Buffalo? Yeah. I don't know.
Can't turn the ball over, right?
So everybody, they just gave Trevor Lawrence $55 million. I'd be like this. Will that guy ever live up to that? Because that's quite a number. You're the highest paid guy in the league. Will you ever so for when I say this to Hurts, it's not just a Philly thing, but if you're the Philly front office right now, after 3 years, what are some of your concerns with him going into this season?
Well, I think leadership has to be one of them, or at least not even forget the word leadership.
How about better teammate?
Handling the business of football. That's been a theme this offseason, right? Talking about the business of football, handling the business of it, handling a new coordinator, handling your head coach, handling the media, all of those things. I think that's a big part of it. And I hate to say this, everybody's going to be mad at this. I think ability. Kellen Moore I've said it when Kellen Moore was first hired. It's sink or swim for Jalen Hurts because Kellen Moore is going to force you to be a traditional quarterback at times. Can you do it? Will you be able to meet the demands of Kellen Moore with this high-powered offense? You have everybody around you need to make it work. You have a top 5 offensive line, arguably a top 3, top 2 offensive line. You have maybe the best tandem of wide receivers in the NFL in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I don't know another team that has 2 potentially top 10, top 15 wide receivers. I think A.J. Brown's top 3. And you have a tight end. Now you got Saquon Barkley. Like, I can't give you any more. So if you're not going to be good in this offense, I don't know what more can we ask here? Like, what more can we do? And Kellen Moore is going to force that out of him. So that would be my biggest concern. What do you think
success looks like then?
I'm not as caught up in the stats as I am about what it looks like. Like in 22, when you turned on an Eagles game.
With what it looks like, they had that concern with Doug. They're concerned how this thing looks. Remember, they're an optics organization. I'm not saying I do think they want to win. I know
what you're saying.
If they want to win.
But how'd that thing look in 22? How did that look in 22?
Exceptional.
You turned on an Eagles game when you were like, these boys can play. Yes. Jalen Hurts can play. You turned them on last year, even when they were winning. It was like, they're struggling along. They're exactly wishy-wash. So I think that's going to be one of the things as well. They need to see him show it, and you need to look competent. You have offensive weapons everywhere. You got to look like you can get them the football. Like everybody criticizes Brock Purdy, especially Eagles fans. That guy did everything asked of him and more. He got the ball to his playmakers. He went all the way to the Super Bowl, and he put up a battle versus the Chiefs. Like, He looked
delivered.
confident doing it. Everybody's like, why would you pay Purdy? I would pay Purdy. If I was the GM, I would pay Purdy. Now, I'd probably try and get him a little bit lower than $50 million, but I would pay Purdy, And I think Jalen's got to show that. He has to look the part. He needs to look like he belongs as the quarterback of this team because I don't see another quarterback with this many weapons.
Except for Purdy. I mean,
you think Purdy is a better cast?
What's that?
You think Purdy is a better cast than Jalen?
I think
offensively. I'm not talking about full
Jalen
team.
has the best cast. I think Jalen has here. If I'm going to look at the differences between the two, who has the two better receivers? Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk versus Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Philly wins that. I think Philly wins it by a little bit more than what I would tell people what they think. I don't think it's close. I think it's they're a 10.
And he's got the better tight end. And he's
Purdy's got the better tight end.
And he's got the better running back.
Better O-line.
Jalen's got the better O-line. Purdy's got the better running back. Yeah, I mean, they're comparable. They're right there. So it's a good comp in terms of, I don't want them to turn Jalen into Purdy, but he's got to look the part like Purdy did.
See, Purdy, get this, like you said, Purdy to me comes off as a guy more like Brady, and Jalen comes off more like a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And what I mean by that is he's got more gifted talents about him naturally than what Brock Purdy does. That's why he was drafted later like that. Yeah. However, he knows how to spread that ball around. And there's also a key component that Kyle Shanahan knows where to go and how to set defenses up better.
But you're also not giving
never had a coordinator that was really great at setting defenses up, because you know what that RPO is? It's a decision-making offense. It's decision-making, whereas when you're in the drop back like Purdy, that's progressive rating. But Kyle's helping you move safeties around, linebackers around, edge rushers around so you can find strength. I think he's got more teaching Brock Purdy and San Francisco than what Jalen's had in his last 4 years.
Yeah, and I think you're, to be honest with you, Dan, I think you're understating Purdy's role in that. I think Purdy doesn't. That's one of his strong suits. He drops back. He knows where to go with the football. And if he doesn't know, he makes the decision quickly. Jalen has struggled with that. That's why he does the boom, drop back, roll to the right when there's nothing there. He's been doing that since he's been here. That's his go-to. And then when you took his legs away a little bit, it started to look crappy. Then he started taking a lot of sacks because he was holding on the ball too long. Purdy's good at that. Jalen's going to need to be better at that. Eventually, he's going to have to get this defensive thing down.
You know, one of the things that I thought that made Purdy so effective was the fact that he had 40 starts at Iowa State.
Yeah.
I mean, he played a lot of ball up there at Iowa State. And even though, again, he just came in as a little bit more seasoned, where Jalen had been. I mean, Jalen's gone through so many different offenses and so many different styles and so many different types of play callers. I wonder what they're thinking. How about this here? Think about this when you think about front office, thinking how they're looking at him. Do you believe right now, when they look at Jalen Hurts, that the 2000 season, the 24 season, is going to dictate how they move forward with him?
I think potentially. I mean, if he shits the bed, what are you going to do? You can't move on from him with $100+ million cap hit, can you? I don't think they can. So what are they, I mean, they're in a tough spot, man. Like, if Jalen doesn't show up this year, they better hope he's not the problem. They better, in fact, if you're the Eagles, you better hope it's Nick Sirianni is the problem. You better hope it was Brian Johnson that was the problem. Because if it's Jalen, you got a much bigger problem on your hands than replacing a coach or replacing a coordinator. I mean, what do you do? If he underdelivers this year and he has 20 turnovers again and the team is 9-8 with this type of talent, what do you do?
To me, it would depend on how you quantify failure. If you're quantifying failure, get beat in the playoffs and you win 11 games and you were a game out of winning the NFC East, I'm going to be more apt to come back with him. I'm not moving off of an 11-win guy.
No matter what, brother. They're coming back with Jalen Hurts next year.
No matter what. Now, if you have 6 wins, we're in a big problem.
They're going to be back with Jalen Hurts, whether he has 4 wins or 12 wins. It doesn't matter. He's going to be back. They're just going to The Eagles are going to do what they do, and they're probably going to frame it up to make it look like it was all the coach's fault. They'll create their scapegoat, which they've already set up in Nick Sirianni, like they did this year with Brian Johnson. They'll push him out the door, and they'll hope the next guy can get it right with Jalen Hurts. But
so you think Nick's been set up?
Well, that's why I said to you yesterday, I think Nick is starting to understand this might not end well for him, and he's doing things now to take back control of his destiny. Maybe post-Eagles life. You know, that's why I'm starting to wonder, maybe it was Nick Sirianni that brought in Kellen Moore. I know we've talked about we don't think it was him. John tells me it was him. I'm still here, right? You're here. John's here. I'm still in the middle. I'm starting to lean toward, I think Nick brought him in, but for different reasons than other people are thinking about.
How about this? I went back and read that John McMullen article.
Yeah.
And, you know, he has a track record of handing over authority. Nick. Look, you know me, I don't want to give this guy an inch. However, now whether we think it was upstairs, Nick, he still had to go without me resigning or whatever, bitching about it.
Right.
He had to give it to Shane. And he thought it was in the best interest of the team. Maybe he did this too, dude. Like he said, we talked a little yesterday about it. Hey, maybe you know what? My relationship with Jalen, I'm just not connected. Hey, you know what, Xander? You can like a guy and not connect with a guy. It doesn't mean that you don't like the guy. It's just that somebody hears you more and hears you more clearly because they speak your tone and they speak your language. Right. Maybe Kellen Moore was hired for his communication skill set, that being able to deal with a personality. Doesn't Dak and Jalen kind of look kind of like the same guy? They're not going to be verbose. They're not going to overspeak. They're not going to talk shit. They're kind of introvert kind of guys. So to me, I think he's bringing more of a communication skill set in that Nick went like this. Hey, you know what? Maybe this guy will communicate better with him than I can because I'm too emotional. How many times do we see on the sidelines, Jalen put his hand down, doing this? That's not Hurts. Kellen Moore is not a rah-rah guy either. So I started doing this. Jesus Christ, I hate to give Nick Sirianni any kudos in any way whatsoever, but maybe he went like this. Hey, maybe Kellen Moore could communicate better with him, and he's a better – and get this, you know, maybe Cliff Kingsbury, they brought him in to take a look at him because he communicated with Mahomes. You know, he communicated with Caleb Williams last year when he was at Southern Cal. Maybe he was looking at guys like that, said this to Howie, hey, you know, Kellen Moore, because he was fired. The Eagles could have had the pick of the litter on who they wanted to bring in, but they picked a guy who was fired. So to me, it has to be that they hired that guy because they felt he could communicate with Jalen a little better. Am I off base on that?
No, I mean, there's no way to obviously prove it, but I think you're onto something. And if you are right, I would say that's a good look for Nick Sirianni. I think that's
what I mean. That's a good look for John's article.
Right. You're going to put your ego to the side and you're going to make a decision that's best for the football team. Now, I do think partly might be true is that he understands that last year he was able to scapegoat Brian Johnson. This year, if it doesn't go as planned or they don't meet expectations, Nick will be the scapegoat. I think in this circumstance, he looks better than if he was still manning the offense.
But I think he's accepted that.
I do too. And that's why he probably did the things with Kellen Moore and he did he made the changes he did. And now the one thing that's weird is, his opening press conferences of the summer were basically
weird
blatant lies
and off base.
Yeah, they were basically blatant lies when we're meshing the offenses. Then, so that's why I wonder, who's somebody's lying. It's either him or Jalen. Remember, Howard Eskin kind of disputed what Jalen said. It's 20% new. It's not 95% new. 95 was always a lofty number, by the way. That was an embellished number to make a point, I think, by the quarterback.
He doesn't seem like a guy who embellishes shit, though.
Yeah, well, he wasn't asked anything about that question. That was a John McMullen question, and he asked him something. I don't remember exactly what the question was. I wish I did. I'm sorry I don't. But it was completely different. And then Jalen, a guy who doesn't
95%,
a guy who doesn't speak much up there starts going off on this is 95% new and all these things. And I'm like, he clearly wanted to get that out there, you know. So it's almost like both of these men, Jalen and Nick, are operating with their own best interest in mind, and you can almost see the fracture there. You know, I don't want to make too much of it because I guess if they start winning ball games, who cares, right? I mean,
Right.
winning cures all, but can they win with this type of setup? We shall see.
Let me do some football stuff here. What about it's now coming out of New York that Reddick lied to Joe Douglas saying that he would never miss any of the mini camps or he would never miss any of the training camp or what have you when they were negotiating with him. And all of a sudden now it comes out where he doesn't show up to any of the OTAs. He hasn't shown up to minicamp. And it's being reported in New York right now. He's not going to show up to training camp on July 25th.
Buying that, though?
What?
Are you buying the story? Because to me, I read it. It sounded like a team planted story that wants to get leverage on a player.
Then trade him.
Yeah, but did the Jets lie to Hassan when they traded for him too?
No.
Did they said they were going to pay him? Like, you know what I mean? Like
They've
that. I read that story. I'm like, he lied to you in trade negotiations about coming to summer stuff. No, he didn't.
I just think his agent has just misread the room here, man. It's all.
I don't know if it's on his agent.
We're all over the place here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I don't know. I never had a problem with Hassan Reddick. I was a big fan of him when he was in Philadelphia. I thought he delivered the goods. I thought he was a good player. I thought he showed up when we needed him to show up. But yeah, I don't know, Dan. I didn't like that story, to be honest. To me, it read like if somebody burnt Howie would go to his minions in the media and make a slant. And that's kind of how I read that story, that the Jets were trying to create.
Do you think the Jets leaked that out?
I don't know I'm not saying they completely made it up, but I think they planted the story to kind of try and get back leverage over Hassan Reddick, who's probably now going to have to answer for it. Did you lie? All these things, you know, and it makes him look worse as a player. And it makes him look worse as a guy who's vouching for a new contract, vouching for more money, you know? So I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say one more thing about Reddick, and I'm going to say it again. There's no market for him because he's one-dimensional, and I've been saying it since day one. I'll tell you, Xander, on certain teams, he's a really great football player, but on marginal defenses, he's a liability. And that's why he's been replaced 3 times.
He wouldn't be a liability on that Jets defense.
He wouldn't.
That defense is built for a guy like Hassan Reddick.
Great.
Yeah. And their back and their cover guys are amazing. So he's going to have a little bit more time to get to the quarterback. I mean, that defense is built for a guy like Hassan Reddick. I thought when the trade went down, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. The Jets, he's a good fit in New York. I don't know. I don't want to buy too much into it, though, to be honest with you.
Let me go over here to one player. Is this the final year of Dallas Goedert?
I don't think they want it to be, but I think naturally it might be.
25% of his career he's missed every year for an injury.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of talent. He doesn't really seem to be.
And he makes 15.
Which is where in tight end rank?
Third
highest paid tight end.
Third highest paid tight end in the league.
Behind Kelsey and Kittle.
Behind Kelsey and the guy Kittle.
Yeah, I don't see everybody.
He's a highly compensated guy.
I got a lot of shit in the comments a couple of weeks ago when I said I thought Goddard was overrated. I think he's a great player. I think he has more talent than Ertz, but I think Ertz was a better player when you add up every piece of the pie. I think Ertz contributed more. I mean, maybe I have eagle-colored glasses. He was a contributor on the Super Bowl team, but I think Goddard would be a great player with a quarterback like Purdy, or with a quarterback like Brady, with a quarterback like Mahomes. These guys spread the ball around so much. What is he, the third option? At best.
At best.
You could argue this year he's going to be the fourth option with Saquon Barkley. You could even argue he's the fifth option because Jalen Hurts prefers himself to run the ball or to create a play.
I don't think there's a place in that offense
that much.
I don't think there's a place in that offense for him.
I don't either. Now, he does do a lot of other stuff. That's good. He's a physical guy, aggressive, good blocker and
he's
stuff.
He's not paid for his blocking. He's paid to catch and block.
He's not. You're right. Is this the last year of his deal?
I think he's got either one more on it. He may have one more. I thought this was the end of that deal, but I don't think he's one of those expiring contracts. I think he's got I think they gave him a little bit more, and I think there's 2 years that he has. I think there's 2 years this year and next year. I think they have still on that deal.
I'm curious, Jam, if you could tell me what that is. He says, look at the offensive stats when Goddard doesn't play. I'd love to see what they are. I don't know exactly what they are. Does our offense suck without him?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Actually, they lose a lot more games when he's not out there because the middle of the field is not covered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he does. You ever notice he misses games and stretch runs when they need him the most, too, especially the last 2 years?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the last 2 years. He misses important games, big-time games. And, you know, I don't know. I would like to keep him because I think we need a great tight end. But is somebody going to offer him a bag of money in the open market that will use him better? I don't know. He's also decently old. He's almost 30 now.
How about this one, too, Xander? I would say this, that Jalen Hurts is the worst of all quarterbacks in the last 23 years that doesn't know how to get the ball to the tight end, where traditionally Philadelphia Eagle tight ends since 2000 have been the prominent force in many of those offenses. He's the only guy that doesn't get the football to him. I think he's a 1,300-yard guy, but still, I think the injuries concern me more and the utilization. You're not going to utilize him a lot in RPO. You're just not. That's not going to be something. And last year's offense couldn't find him. And then when he got hurt, that took the middle of the field, which became more predictable. So I think this is a big year for him.
Yeah, but even when Goddard was out there last year, Hurts didn't go to the middle of the field. That's where I really think.
Remember, he complained in the week 2 or 3 last year. Goddard going, "Hey, you know, I'm really glad that I'm involved in like the run game, but I'd like to be involved more in the passing game."
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing here, but he actually said that.
Yeah, that's where I wonder if it's just he doesn't fit in this offense. I do like the player, though. I think the player is good. I like the way he plays. I love football players that play physical. He plays very physical. He got hurt on a freaking stiff arm last year. But that's the other thing, right? The guy gets hurt way too much. You're nothing to us if you could be the best tight end in the football in the NFL. If you can't stay on the field, though, then you're no help to us.
How about this question here? Wide receiver 3. They have gotten in the last 3 years nothing out of that position. 0. There's been no impact.
In fact,
you're actually going out there with 10 guys.
The impact's been negative because there's been big moments where the wide receiver 3 has dropped the football.
And to expect that position, and I'm not looking at that position to be a high performance position. I'm looking at it to be a competent position. It's not a competent position. What do you do with that?
It doesn't look like they have a guy on the roster right now that's going to be overly competent. I mean, I think.
So you don't think the third WR is on the team now?
Well, I think he's on the team because I don't think the Eagles are going to go outside and get somebody. But I mean, if you're asking me if I'm happy with who it is, no, it looks like it's going to be Paris Campbell. I mean,
who?
Yeah, Paris Campbell. I mean, he's an all right player. I think he'll be okay, but he's not an impact guy. He's not a guy like you just said that has an actual impact on the game. So. What is he going to be? And then you also get into you need him, right? You need a wide receiver 3 because it opens things up for other guys. But
you use that position to make yourself less predictable.
Right. But you have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. Now I'm at wide receiver 3. That's my 6th option. Eagles just don't care. I don't think they're prioritizing it. Remember, they're spending $175 million in this offense. Not going to be able to have everything. I don't think they're going to prioritize it. I think they're going to go with Paris Campbell or one of their rookie 6th-round picks.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about a star. I'm talking about competency. Just being competent.
Yeah. They drafted 2 receivers, though. They like their draft picks. That's what their philosophy is. They're going to try and give those guys a chance. I think Anais Smith might be okay in the slot. He's struggled really early on. It's only spring, but he struggled a lot down there, dropped a lot of passes. And then I kind of like that.
Devontae and AJ around more.
I know he's a 6th-rounder, but I kind of like the Johnny Wilson dude.
That 6'7" kid from FSU.
6'7" dude. And I think it would be a big target for Jalen. Almost like another tight end playing wide receiver 3, though. I don't want him to play tight end. A big-ass target for Jalen right over the middle of the field. It's like, Jalen, you can't miss this dude. Freaking put the ball in his hand. I think they might go with him just because they prioritize their draft picks, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to go for somebody. I really don't. After AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, that receiver room is atrocious. But I mean, your top is good. So what are you going to do?
How about this? Last question for you. Do they need a red zone back?
I think Saquon could be that. I think Saquon could be a good red zone back. Remember, he's been with the Giants. He hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to showcase things like that.
Well, you're asking him to do an awful lot. Pass protect, red zone back, be your 20-touch
he's
guy.
one of the highest paid running backs in the league. He's going to have to do a lot.
Okay, well, you're talking about a guy who hasn't been healthy for the last 6 years.
If they were willing to bring in a bruiser back, I would say yes. Like if you want to recreate what you had on the Super Bowl team, where you have LeGarrette Blount as the second, and he's that big bruiser, somebody like that, and you keep Saquon as your number one, that I like. Now that was a whole different team. We had undrafted free agent Corey Clement. He was a huge impact on that team. He had a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So that running back room was a lot different, but I'd like them to get back to that. I'd like them to get back to a versatile running back room where you could have a guy where you're not relying on Saquon for everything. But does it look like they're going to do that? I mean, they drafted Will Shipley and they're talking him up. He sucked at Clemson. He wasn't even good at Clemson. Like everybody's telling me what the potential of him is. He wasn't even good in college. Why do I think he's going to be good in the pros? Kenny Gainwell is what he is. Looks like they're going to keep this crew, though. I mean, it's clearly a style of a back, right? Kenny Gainwell and Will Shipley are like very similar players. So I don't think they're going to add it back, but you bring up a good point. I'd like them to get a bruiser back, maybe that plays in the goal, plays down in the red zone. But are they going to do it? Are they going to invest more resources in the running back position? I'm doubtful.
How about this? Well, the resources in 17 weren't out of hand.
No, but they were.
LeGarrette Blount from Ajayi. I don't believe they
traded for Ajayi midway through the year that year, and he was a big impact. You had Ajayi, you had Corey Clement, who was an undrafted guy making sub $1 million probably that year.
So you can build it,
and you had LeGarrette Blount. See the thing with those though, that's 3 different types of backs, all 3 different.
Right.
Ajayi was more versatile, jukey, shifty, that type of runner. LeGarrette Blount was your north to south guy.
I think they got 3 of the same guys back there. I think this group is 3 of the same guys.
That's what, yeah. And I don't think that's a great thing, but they love this style of running back. And the other ironic part of it is Jalen Hurts doesn't even like that style of running back. He has never shown that he wants to throw the ball to backs. Never. Not even in his early days in college. He never throws to backs. So why do they keep getting these versatile backs? Just give me a bruiser. That's why we talked about the Derrick Henry thing, and I don't want to go back down that road, but I would have loved him in Philly.
Man,
I think he would have.
Behind that O-line, he gets.
I'd be real high on this offense if they had him, because I think that would take real pressure off the quarterback.
Jalen could throw the ball 10 times, and they'd get the 1,700 yards out of that guy. Get Dalvin Cook.
Get Dalvin Cook.
I don't know what left he has. I mean, it really looks like Minnesota made the right move by moving off him. But I want to finish it up here with this. So 22, you had Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and Kenny Gainwell. In 2024, you have Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, and Shipley. Do you have a better running back room now than you did in 22?
What was it? It was Sanders, Gainwell, and who?
It was Sanders, Gainwell, Boston Scott.
Boston Scott, that's right.
You got Shipley, Gainwell, and Barkley now.
Well, then the only difference is, I think Saquon's a clear upgrade from Miles Sanders, I would say. So that's a win. And Gainwell's the same. And then you had Boston Scott over Shipley. Yeah, I think this year is probably better just because of Saquon. But overall, that was still a more versatile back room in 22.
So you think it's that much of a bigger gap between Miles Sanders and
right? I think
Barkley. You think there's a huge gap there?
Yeah, I think the gap is big enough that it's a better room now. But again, that doesn't address my point about the running back room not being versatile enough. And 22 is a little better, but even 22 wasn't the greatest room either.
1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns.
Yeah, but what do you do in the Super Bowl?
I know you hang your hat on that. I'm talking about what he did.
That's when it matters.
13 games to get you.
Go watch the 2017 Super Bowl that we won and look at how important those backs were.
I get it, but Xander, you can't dismiss 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns either.
Well, yeah. Do you think Saquon's not going to be able to get that? I think he's going to get that.
those are his highs in his career, playing on a lesser
Playing in
team.
New York, Dan. Come on.
I got it. Hey, but he was also 21 then.
Yeah. You could argue Saquon has a lot of tread off the tires right now.
Right. And he's got an injury. He's got 2 injuries in the last 4 years. So, I mean, look, I think that running back room that running back room and receiver 3. If you lose Barkley, you're not getting anything out of 3. God forbid Goddard gets hurt. That's what makes you unpredictable. That's why when you say Kellen Moore spreading the ball around, this is why Jalen struggled last year. Get this. They didn't throw the screen passes, like you said, because they didn't have the versatility in the backfield. I thought Swift was going to be better than that. I really
Swift would have been better than that. They didn't use him. This is where Underdog is 100% right on this. Jalen wants to replace the backs from the quarterback position. He prefers himself to keep the ball.
But the organization doesn't prefer that.
Well, the quarterback's the one out there saying hike and getting the ball in his hands. So
Jalen changing plays. Okay.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's opting to not go there. And I think it's because of the style of quarterback that he is. It's weird why they keep going with this type of running back, but that's what they're doing. Is there a LeGarrette Blount type in the league right now? We could have got somebody put it in here. AJ Dillon, he was out there this year. I forget who it was.
Was that the kid from Green Bay?
But he's a north and south guy. That would have been a good red zone back, right? I mean,
somebody
like that. That's what you want.
I don't know if those backs are out there like AJ Brown, or AJ Dillon and guys like that any longer. I think San Francisco has a fullback that's a Pro Bowler every year. Okay. I think they have one of those guys out there, but they don't really use that position. I think Barkley is going to be the key component in how this offense is going to look and how his impact is going to be on Hurts. If his impact is minimal and they can't find a way to get him the ball, I think you're going to be as predictable as ever.
Yeah, but isn't his impact on Hurts entirely predicated on how he's used in the offense?
Yes.
So how is he going to be?
That's on Kellen.
What do you think he's going to be? What is your perspective right now, without seeing anything, how they're going to use Barkley?
I think Barkley's going to be a 900 yards, 600 yards receiving, 550, and he's going to have like 15 touchdowns. He's going to be a cheap man's version of CMC. And
I don't like that.
And he's going to do the most important thing that struggled last year with every back you had. He's going to be enormous in blitz pickup.
Yeah, his pass protection is going to be good.
The pass protection with him. So you have a problem with 1,500 total yards and 15 touchdowns?
I don't think he's getting 600 yards receiving, Dan. Where are you getting that number?
You've got to implement him that way. So you think he's getting 1,600 yards rushing?
I'm not saying that. I just don't think he's getting that type of. Where have you seen in Jalen Hurts' career that he's going to throw the ball to a back for them to amass 600 yards?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the coordinator you're bringing in is going to do that because they did it with Tony Pollard.
Yeah, but
Pollard not used as a pass catching running back.
The catalyst, though, is not Kellen Moore. I mean, he can try and draw it up. The catalyst is the quarterback. Hurts has the ball. He's going to choose what to do.
Well, if you're going to go by the way you're talking, not thinking, I don't think, you've averaged almost 1,300 yards the last 2 years and over 10 touchdowns. And that means for guys that get the ball 225 times. Okay? Are you suggesting Barkley's going to get the ball 250, 275?
No, but wait, if Miles Sanders ran for 13, ran for 1,280 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the fourth highest number. And
DeAndre Swift ran for about the same, maybe a little bit less. You don't think Barkley has the ability to do that? I do.
I didn't say that. But that's not an upgrade. Xander, that's not an upgrade.
That's a different question.
Okay.
What about situational impact?
600 yards receiving and pass protection is an upgrade. Him rushing for 1,200 yards is not an upgrade.
What about situational impact?
Okay. Keeping it, 3rd and 1, I'd rather have Barkley than Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and I'm even talking about the course of the whole year, where it's like if we can use Saquon as a bell cow when you have a lead on teams going into the second half, that to me would be a good impact, because you might be able to close out more games that way, right? Not have to rely on Jalen Hurts constantly to run the ball and to do everything. That would be a great use of Saquon Barkley. I like red zone because I think he's going to be good in the red zone. I really do.
Are you going to run him a lot early or late?
I think they're going to try and get a lead and run them late. I really do, right? I mean, that seems to be what they try and do on offense. And that means you're going to have to rely on Jalen to get the lead.
22, they ran the ball early on you, got a lead on you. And when you looked up, how many times you looked like – remember you and I were going like this, Xander? We're watching a ball game. You look up, there's 2 minutes left in the first quarter. You're like, holy shit.
Right.
They just burnt that entire first quarter off, and the other team had the ball for 8 plays.
Yeah. And they do that a lot. Yeah.
They didn't do that last year.
I mean, I think early, but I think where his impact is going to be late in terms of closing out the games. But you are right. I mean, traditional NFL offenses run the set up the pass. Even Kellen Moore, right? Kellen Moore loves play action. You don't do play action for the opening play of the game, or you know what I mean? You run
or
and
at a shotgun.
Right. So we will see what they end up doing with Saquon Barkley.
So Warren here is like, hey, I'm good with 1,000 rushing and 500
but
passing.
Warren, they're not going to throw the ball to him enough for him to get 500 passing yards. Unless he has a 90-yard sweep a couple times this year.
Yeah, but that's who he is. He's a dual threat guy.
Yeah, but our quarterback doesn't throw the ball to the running backs.
So that means then that they didn't utilize DeAndre Swift, and the Bears see that and they knew it, and that's why they gave him $9 million.
Let me go look at the stats. Let's go look at the 23 stats real quick. How many receiving yards did
263, I think. On 36 catches, I think he had.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift had 214 yards
something like
receiving. Now, Kenny Gainwell also had 180. So maybe that's 400 right there.
400 yards.
That's
how many catches total between the two?
Gainwell had, let me find it, 39 and 30, so 69 catches.
Dude, that's your wide receiver 3 right there.
Less than 100 targets to the running backs.
That's pretty impressive.
Let me look at
79 catches between two dudes, running backs. This is why wide receiver 3 is not utilized. That's a lot. I didn't add.
Are you ready though? Ready?
Yeah.
22, the year we went to the Super Bowl. Our leading catcher out of the backfield was Kenny Gainwell. He had 169 yards. Miles Sanders had 78 receiving yards in 2022. 78 receiving yards. 78 receiving yards for your running back one. And 170 for Gainwell.
And here's why. You had 1,300 yards rushing from Sanders, and you had 880 yards from Jalen Hurts. So you basically had 2,180 yards and 24 touchdowns between the two. You've never recovered that number since 22. Think about that. You had 2,000 yards rushing between two dudes, the quarterback and Miles Sanders, and 24 touchdowns in 2022. Hoss, you didn't have to throw screen passes. You were running people over.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, there lies the difference. The Eagles in 22 didn't pass people to death, Xander. They ran people over.
Yeah, Hurts only had 3,200 yards or whatever it was, or 3,300 passing yards.
Right.
Yeah,
they ran people over.
So are you saying they should get back to that?
Yes,
I do too. But do you think they're going to get back to that? No.
And see, this is why. Get this too, Xander. But this is why it creates the Eagles are creating more problems and more questions for Hurts, where you don't need to have the questions for Jalen, because Jalen is so dynamic. Bro, I promise you, if you guys were coaching him the way you coached him in 22, I would have a completely different attitude about him. And I think so would a lot of other people have a completely different attitude. But when you're, like you said, you're trying to make him into a guy that's like Joe Burrow or Mahomes, you're going down the wrong road here.
You think they're going down that road? I mean,
They
I
did
don't know.
last
But
year.
They didn't really last year. I mean, he was a lesser quarterback, but I wouldn't say he played ball like those guys did.
No. But no, he had more passing attempts,
Yeah,
which
a lot
is
more
more
passing
high
attempts.
turnover attempts, which led to more interceptions.
Yeah.
In 2022, he had 430 attempts. Last year, he had 540 something attempts. You increase the opportunity of turnover because you want a high prolific passing game. And you know what? When you look at the two receivers, Xander, I swear to you, when you look at Tua had 4,600 yards passing, okay? And two 1,000-yard receivers. You're like, that's the number. Yeah, I've never seen a guy under 3,900 yards before with 2,000-yard receivers 2 years in a row. I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's very predictable. It's predictable where they're going.
Correct. If the quarterback can't go to wide receiver 3, he can't get to the tight end because the guy's either hurt or they don't have him in the offense, and they're not throwing screen passes.
Yeah, but
Here's how they're going to be better. They're not going to be better with Devontae and AJ. They're going to be better with Goddard, wide receiver 3, and also the backs being a factor in the pass screen game. And if that's not a fact, you're going to be the same guy throwing to the numbers again.
Here's the problem with this. I don't think they want to go back to the 22 style because it took so much off Jalen Hurts.
You went to the Super Bowl.
I know, but did you pay a guy $50 million to be that?
Yeah. Super Bowl guy like that in 22? Absolutely.
I'm not as much talking about the results.
I didn't pay $50 million for that thing.
I'm less talking about the results and more talking about the player. I think they are so focused on justifying, or maybe it's Jalen or whoever it might be. They're not going to go to a style where Jalen Hurts is not. We ran teams over in 22. Yep. Jalen Hurts doesn't get credit for that.
Oh, I give him credit. He had 880 yards that year.
Yeah, I just don't think they want to go back.
Dude, he was your red zone back.
Yeah, he was. Do you think they're going to go back to that though?
No, nope,
they're not.
Nope.
So it's like,
right. You're getting further away from your favorite year with him, 22. You get this 24 year, you're going to get further away from that.
But can we mesh 22 and 23 and make Hurts better?
Now, I brought this up earlier here, and I promise I'll get you out of here after this one. But this is what, for me, Xander, could it be that you have him with 8 carries and Barkley has about 18 to 19 to 20 carries in a game, and his yardage is more like this? They're more productive because you said something really good the other day. You said Hurts' numbers in 22 were more effective than anything he did in 23. You're right. They were more effective because it was third and short. He was a weapon. And could his yards be less attempts, but more impact? Absolutely, because of the influence of Barkley. That's going to take a lot. And that's why when everyone is sitting here telling me 2024, this thing's going to be in a snap, I'm saying, dude, 25 is going to be the year where you're going to see all of this hitting on every cylinder. This thing's going to be a bumpy ride, and the bumpy ride may cost jobs in September.
Which might cost 25.
It will. It will set them back.
That's what I'm saying.
If they're not patient, and you don't, and if that front office is not patient, they weren't patient a year ago, Xander. You were 10-2, and they started firings before the season even ended.
Which apparently, I mean, it's reported that was really Nick.
So you think Nick walked in the office after Monday telling everybody in the press conference that he had all the coaches he needed in the building, and then on Friday he fired him?
Evidently, it was Nick. I don't know. I'm not in the room.
Remember he said that? Was that same week on Tuesday?
We've talked to, I mean, I don't know. I guess reporters don't know everything. I'm not saying they do, but I'm just saying it is reported that Nick was the one who made the decision to move on.
They probably told him to fire him.
I don't know. Apparently,
because Tuesday he came out on the press conference and was asked explicitly the question, hey, do you look for any changes being made on your staff? He goes, no, we have everyone we need in the building. These are almost verbatim everybody we need. By Friday, Desai was out. How do you go in 2 days? Then you're doing fumble drills on Friday for everyone to see.
Apparently, the front office though and the owner didn't like how he handled Sean Desai. That was one of their criticisms of him. That was one of the things they wanted him to work on. It's also part of the reason that they liked his philosophy to bring in a new offensive coordinator, somebody that mans the offense, so he can be better at in-season, in-game decisions. That was a brutal decision, whoever made it. Brutal.
Derailed the whole team.
It was stupid. It was stupid. Think about it. Why did they get rid of that guy? I didn't even like Sean Desai.
Right.
The Miami Dolphins dropped a 70
he had beaten
burger.
Mahomes. He had beaten Allen. He had beaten Dak. He had beaten Stafford. He had beaten Mayfield. He had beaten all those teams. And so what? You lose to the Niners and the Cowboys.
And he beat Miami. I know Miami is not great, but they put up a 70 burger.
They beat the brakes off them.
They put up a 70 burger, and then they came to Philly or wherever I think we played them in Miami. They didn't do shit that game. Sean Desai locked that offense down. So I'm not even saying Sean Desai was that great, but why not just see the season through?
It was a flamethrower to the entire season.
Also, now we have a bunch of other unanswered questions where Jalen Carter was arguably the best defensive player on the Eagles, and then he dropped off a cliff.
By far head in the Rookie of the Year. I thought it was a slam dunk.
It was a slam dunk. And then you change coordinator, and now everybody's like, oh, he needs his conditioning better. I'm like, well, he does, but was it the coordinator switch? Was it going to Matt Patricia? Hassan Reddick hated Matt Patricia. Josh Sweat fell off a cliff. Jalen Carter fell off a cliff. Now it's a team
game.
Reddick? Right, it's a team game. I'm not, everybody's got to perform no matter what, right? I mean, I'm not going to blame it on one thing, but it certainly looks like that was a variable.
You think Patricia was hired by Nick?
I don't know. I guess.
And why don't you just come because maybe they were playing AFC East teams last year?
Yeah, but why go to him as the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, no. I just that whole thing was weird. Inexperienced coaches, and you hire the pencil who hates Slay. It just was the whole thing was, and then you bring the coach back. He's the only, he made all these decisions, like you're saying. So he fired Desai, which derailed the season at 11-1. You were still in the race for home field. So Xander, isn't that a fireable offense?
Dude, we would have won home field if we just beat the Cardinals and the Giants.
One game, right. Cardinals and Giants who had a combined wins of 6.
Yeah, it was like ridiculous.
Well,
yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like this team is not in as good of a spot as we're thinking they are, but
is it mentally? It's not physically. They're in a good spot physically. They're not in a good spot. I think how about this? They're in a questionable spot mentally.
Wait, can I bring up what Angelo said yesterday?
Sure.
What did you think of that? Because his entire spin and the whole thing was that we should be praising Jalen Hurts for that type of talk. And it's all about Nick. And there's no onus on Jalen at all. And to be frank with you, I respect Angelo a lot. I thought that was total. I thought that was total bullshit. I didn't buy that for a soul second.
Why do you think it was bullshit?
Because I don't believe you can just pay a guy $55 million, put him on the press conference, and he can bash the head coach. You can hate the head coach. You can think that's the truth. For you to put that in the media, for you to do that way publicly, derails your chance at success, whether you like Nick or not. It was a dumb thing for Jalen Hurts to say. And I'm not even a Jalen Hurts hater. I like Jalen Hurts. I think we can win with Jalen Hurts. I think he can bring us to the Super Bowl and win the game. Did I think that was a good move right there? No, I thought it was dumb and childish, to be honest.
I think two comments can be looked perceivingly different at particular times of the year. And I'm not trying to waffle this, you know me. But you're right, and I think he's right. But here's what the problem becomes. On June 17th, you said that, and Angelo said that yesterday. Yeah, you're trying to bring uniformity. Like I told you with Aaron Rodgers going and smoking weed or whatever he's doing in Europe.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to do it, you have to bring continuity into your organization, even if you don't fucking want to.
That's my point. Yeah.
Right. However, during the season, if we're not playing well, and we're not coaching well, I want my quarterback to say something at that time. So to me, I think it's situational. And this comes back to
he did it in reverse then. By your logic, he did it in reverse. Because he didn't say
wrong
shit.
timing.
And the one time he did during the season, he walked it back.
Because he was told to.
Exactly.
Right.
So you're going to say that now when it's not the time to say it. And then when it is time to say it, you're going to sulk on sidelines?
I think it was wrong timing.
Terrible
timing. I think he should have been more of a team guy at that time yesterday, or when he said that and said, look, man, we got to be all together here. We got to do this and that. But I want my quarterback, when fire is going on right now around me, and I'm in a foxhole, hey, fucking get your head down, man. Hey, we need to coach better. We need to play better. And I don't want any walking back. So to me, you're not wrong. I just think Jalen did that at the wrong time. He didn't need to do that then. He needed to do that during the meltdown last year.
I agree.
See, I think
look, there's a couple comments in here, and I don't even have a problem with these comments, honestly. I really don't. He's telling you he doesn't believe in the head coach. Get him a proper coach. Hurts was being honest. This head coach is a knucklehead. I'm with you guys. I don't think Nick is great. Do you really think that the leader of the football team saying that in June was the right move?
No.
Chuck, answer that question.
No, I don't.
Nathan, answer that. Pete, Nathan, answer that.
There's no football being played.
It was stupid. It was a dumb comment by me. For
you're in helmets and pajamas. I mean, no. When you're in the fire, I think that shit has to be said. Not
also, and if he hates the head coach,
this goes to leadership, though, dude.
If he hates the head coach so much, walk into your owner's office, say, you paid me $55 million a year. You're not paying Nick Sirianni that. This guy's a clown. Maybe he did do it, but he did it publicly, which would tell me that he didn't really do that. Or maybe the owner didn't listen to him.
That's right.
That's plausible, but I don't think you need to do that publicly.
Do you think the general manager, maybe not the owner, but do you think the general manager on an exit meeting had a private meeting with Jalen Hurts and asked him how he thought the season went?
I would imagine.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
how do you think Jalen would have answered that?
I don't know. I mean, he definitely said it didn't go good. They collapsed. I think the problem.
Doesn't it come off where he's a guy to kind of make excuses?
Well, yeah, because is Jalen not responsible for any of the collapse? I mean,
if you listen to people in here, no.
Are we seriously going to sit here and tell ourselves that the guys inside the lines, the guys hitting each other, the guys taking the snaps, the guys throwing the football are at less fault than the guys holding?
No, player accountability in me is number one.
I don't understand how we can do that. Look, I didn't like Brian Johnson either.
Well, Jalen got him fired too.
Yeah, and Jalen, and that was another point somebody brought up. It's like, I think it was 97.5. It was that Tyrone guy on 97.5. He's like, you think they didn't rub Jalen the wrong way when they fired Brian Johnson? When Nick fired Johnson, that rubbed Jalen the wrong way. That's his lifelong friend. I'm like, Jalen got Brian Johnson fired, not Nick. Jalen did. Jalen was the one executing the plays.
Just like Josh Allen got Ken Dorsey fired. Listen, absolutely.
I think
why is that such a tough thing when it comes to player accountability, when it comes to certain guys that they fall in love with, that they can't put that onus on him and say this, hey, he's the one executing the plays. Like you said, Kellen Moore can call up and draw up all the plays you want. The player's got to execute this stuff.
Exactly.
Well, when the player doesn't execute, that's on the quarterback too, dude.
I know that better than anybody. People think I'm a Jalen hater because I say that. I'm like, dude, he's our quarterback. We go as far as he takes us. We should want him to be great. And he wasn't in that season. He didn't do anything to turn it around. He didn't do anything to show leadership on the sideline. He didn't execute play calls. Like,
doesn't that go to my comment that he's a front runner?
Yeah, I guess it does. The play calling sucks. Joseph, the play calling sucked, but the execution sucked, dude. The quarterback calling the plays, taking the football sucked. You can't the NFL is not a play calling sport. If the NFL was whoever makes the best play calls all year is going to win the Super Bowl, the season would be over. You'd be giving it to Andy Reid or San Francisco every single year. That's not how it works.
Or McVay.
Right. Good point. The players got to execute here. Like, I think Jalen Hurts is, and again, everybody's going to call me a hater.
You're a fan. You're
I'm
not.
a fan.
You're not. You're a fan.
He's got to be a little bit more accountable for the collapse last year. He's the quarterback of your football team. If the Chiefs collapsed down the stretch, would we blame only the coaches and not Patrick Mahomes? If Tom Brady had a collapse, would we not blame any of Tom Brady? If any, add it up. These guys say the same thing about Josh Allen. They hate that you like Josh Allen. You put the onus on him, right? Not all on his coaches. I mean, come on. The players have to be accountable too, especially the guy who's making $55 million, far and away more than anybody else on that roster.
I am going to ask you one last one here. Does the collapse matter anymore?
No, it's 24. Got to put it in the rearview mirror. It wouldn't have mattered if they won
Have
the
they?
playoff game. Doesn't sound like it.
Right.
Doesn't sound like it.
Your mannerism doesn't sound like it.
No, doesn't sound like it at all. And I told you this. I wouldn't have cared about the collapse for 1 minute if they showed up in Tampa to play the playoff game. The team didn't even show up. They didn't look like they cared. They didn't look like they gave an effort. They didn't look like anything. Now
Look at this guy here, Richard. Can we stop comparing Jalen to Mahomes and Brady? No. What do you want to compare him to? Zach Wilson?
Yeah, right.
I mean, dude, no one's saying they play like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, but you want to compare the winning, and you want to compare putting your team into a position to win Super Bowls. That's what this is about. I hate when people do that. Don't compare him to the top. Well, who do you want to compare him to? Baker Mayfield and Zach Wilson? Bro, I'm comparing him to people that are winners, that have won multiple Super Bowls, and that are considered the best. Don't you? Or you want us to compare you to Carolina?
Yeah, right.
You can always do that.
Look, I'm not even trying to criticize Jalen Hurts as much as it might sound like I am. I just think there has to be, the only way out is through, right? Like if you're never even able to tell yourself that something I did wasn't right, you can't correct it. If you don't identify a problem, you can't fix it.
Did you hear my comment about how you're coached? Do you actually think those Eagle coaches are going like this to players, Xander? You think they're doing this? Watch this. Hey, these are the things you really do well. Aren't they doing the things that you suck at? And aren't they working at the things you suck at? Hey, you're not very good at this. You're not doing this. You don't get better by practicing what you do best. You get better at the shit that you don't do well. Then you become, with the stuff you do great, you elevate your game because you're only as good as your weakest problems that you have in your skill set. Yeah, not what you do best, because then you become predictable, and in the NFL, they figure that out.
Yep.
All right. I mean, great stuff. By the way, some great stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to have Merrill Reese on, and we're going to congratulate him on winning the Pete Rozelle Award. It's one of the highest distinctions that you can possibly have for a broadcaster. That's going to be tomorrow at around 4:30, I believe, that we're going to get the legendary Merrill Reese. Also, I think you're going to like this one too, Xander. I think on Thursday we're getting Seth Joyner on.
Oh, fantastic. I've been waiting to get Seth.
Yeah, I finally connected with him. We had a great conversation, so everything is all good and such. So we're working on getting Seth on. If he's going to find time, it'll be around 4:30 or 5:30, so that'll be on Thursday. Great stuff. Hey, brother, where are we on the likes?
Oh, let me check that out.
Guys are killing it. You guys are doing a great job. Hey, by the way, great conversation today too, my friends. Got to agree.
It's good convo, and I hope everybody, I don't really care because, they're going to say what they're going to say, but I'm not even trying to come off as a Jalen Hurts hater. I just think people should be honest about it, because I think that's the best way to fix it, right? Is to be, if Jalen was like, I wasn't my best last year in 23. I'm working on things that I did wrong to fix that so we can have a better team and a better season for the Eagles this year. You know how good that would make me feel? Absolutely. But instead, it's been all about everything else. And I frankly, I have a problem with that. Perfect example. I do all the things for JAKIB's YouTube. I manage everything. I manage your show, Bird 365. If our channel is sucking, if we're not getting views, if your show starts sucking, I can't just blame you. I'm blaming me. I'm the one who's crafting thumbnails and titles and things and doing the things on the back end. It's anything in life. You have to have accountability to be able to correct things and move forward. And if our quarterback doesn't have that, we're gonna It's not going to be good.
Who do you think has more accountability in how he handles himself, Nick or Jalen?
100% Nick. Nick fell on the sword for them over and over again last year. Nick has a
I
lot
never
of faults.
thought about it that way, but Nick has more accountability for his team than what Jalen does.
Dan, go back and listen to the one A.J. Brown press conference after the Seattle thing. A.J. Brown was taking accountability. I'll be better. That was a mistake. I'll do this. Jalen Hurts just brushes everything off. I don't love that. That's not particularly my style. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's a way to help.
Think about that.
Fix the problem.
Nick has more of accountability on his team than what Jalen does.
Well, I don't have a problem with that statement, and as long as Jalen's also taking some accountability, because I'm good with the head coach falling on the sword for his players. But when his players have the opportunity to do the same for him, like Jalen just had, and you go the other way, now we're into the conversation of accountability. Now it's
leadership.
You know, the other thing that nobody has talked about, I know we're going long here. I want to get out of here. But the other thing that this comment highlights with Jalen Hurts is exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts believes last year was entirely on the coaches.
Completely true. Even that comment he made about, I wish I had this in Philly, like, reminds me a little bit of college and this and that. I mean, their offseason comments, his entire offseason has been littered with excuses.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, Xander. How about this? Have you lost a little bit of respect for how he conducts himself as a professional football player? Not as a man. It's not an indictment. I don't know him as a man. I don't know what I'm not talking. I'm talking how he handles himself as a professional. I've lost not a ton, but I've lost a little bit of accountability, which means to me, I think he makes excuses and he tries to build in off ramps for him and his failures. I don't see that intangible leader.
It's tough to disagree with you. I mean, especially after what we just talked about, where the guy, and look at, like, this is where I don't get, where fans are just delusional. Like, I'm a fan too. Darlene says, wow, y'all are the new WIP. Darlene, are you really going to look at us on the screen? Are you going to listen to this show right now? Think about what happened last year and say, none of it was on Jalen Hurts. Not a single stitch of it was on Jalen Hurts. Come on, man. That's crazy to me. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Jalen's got to be accountable. And to answer your question, yeah, I mean, you could argue that I'm starting to lose faith in the way he conducts himself as a football professional.
I'm going to make one last comment here, and this is going to be in the weeds. And if you decide not to want to go down this route, go ahead. And I would respect you. However, it's almost like watching Angel Reese a little bit and Caitlin Clark a little bit. And I'll tell you why. We're in like these massive culture wars. It's like you're picking a side versus management versus the quarterback, whatever it is. It's like you pick a side on something here, and no matter what it is, you're going to defend it because this is what you want to defend. No matter that, I say something about a Josh Allen. Josh Allen got his coordinator fired. Well, Jalen got his coordinator fired. No, he didn't. It was bad play calling. Brian sucked. And you're like, well, why do you defend that guy versus Allen? What's the difference? And it's almost, Xander, like today, it's like we pick sides instead of looking at the truth of what this is. This is a professional sports team. Everyone is held accountable. No matter what you are and who you are, you're in it together. To me, I think he does a disservice, Jalen, to his head coach
100%.
on a daily basis. And he doesn't get
that.
killed for that more. And by the way, this contradicts Angelo because Angelo thinks
this is where I thought Angelo was wrong. Exactly.
To me, I think he throws his coach under the bus more than any quarterback in the NFL today.
Yeah, and it's not even like he doesn't even have to work hard.
It's not like he's trying hard. He's just doing it.
Well, that's what I mean. It's almost teed up for him the other way. Like, hey, here's an easy bone you can give to your head coach, and he doesn't do it. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know. I get where you're going with the Angel Reese and the Caitlin Clark stuff. By the way, it's great for the WNBA, right?
Oh,
I mean, they got their villain, they got a superhero, and there's so there's a lot.
They're looking at it as a race war thing. You know what I'm looking at it as? This is fantastic. Villain, white hat, the whole thing.
Like you've said before,
I love it.
Part of it. Race sells. I mean, look at what happened. Look at what's happened in our country in the last 8 years. I didn't even know this shit mattered until they started making it matter because it sells.
Race is like, look at the news networks.
Yeah.
It's massive money they make.
Oh, believe me, I get it. Yeah.
Trump's a racist. We'll go back after this commercial break. You're like, I mean, you're going like, wait a minute, you're selling that? Oh, okay. I got it now. So no. I mean, I love the whole Caitlin. See, I don't look at it like, I look at it like, what a great selling point. And Angel Reese, the only two people that are handling that situation correctly are Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
They're handling it better than the media are handling it and the WNBA, because you know why? It's truly a rival.
Yeah, it's good. It's great for the sport. I hope they don't squander it. The league seems like they're dumb.
Oh, they're squandering it. Oh, yeah. They're absolutely imploding on themselves. When everyone was always talking about the 90s play, when those guys were gooning one another, going after one another, talking shit to one another, everyone was like, God, that was so great. Now you have it. And now you're complaining about it. And I'm like, dude, you're looking at this thing wrong. This is a very good selling point. Xander, great stuff. Where are we in the likes, my friend?
153. Good stuff, everybody. 153.
Fantastic. 47 away. Guys, we're going to take a look at the Baltimore Ravens next. Don't forget, Xander's on tomorrow at in the morning with Birds 365 with John McMullen. They do a great job. Thank you so much, Xander.
Thanks, Sills. Appreciate it, brother.
You got it. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find, or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights, or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm, or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Listen, if we even think you owe us money, you won't know what hit you. We'll put liens on everything you own. Raid your bank accounts, retirement fund, pension. You'll open up your paycheck and cry because we'll already have the money. We'll haul you into federal court and you might even go to jail. Hey, it's our job.
Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. Our experts will fight for you using IRS guidelines to stop any IRS actions like bank levies or wage garnishments. Plus, eliminate penalties and interest and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
I'd have my mom call the number on the screen. You come see me alone. We'll work it out.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Sills National Football Show. Please hit the like button. We're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens Week 14 opponent as we look through some of the teams that the Eagles are going to play. I do want to throw this out at you guys, and please hit the like button. We're trying to get to 200 likes. We're at 160 right now. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. You know, I kind of broached this a year ago, and I'm going to tell you a little bit now because it's becoming more public. The reason that Michael Irvin has not been on Undisputed, or you haven't seen him on any of the networks, and they're not renewing his contract, is because, you know why the NFL Network didn't renew his contract? Michael couldn't commit to the days because his wife, Sandy, is at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. I met her in college. She went to school at the University of Miami. And I've known her for about 40 years. And I've known them, obviously, Michael, for about 42 years. So, yeah, Mike, his wife is at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, and she falls down a lot. Mike can't leave her alone, and healthcare and all that is so expensive. So he's spending the majority of his time now with his wife, and she's deteriorating rapidly. You got to know something about Michael. Has he been a model citizen? No, nor have I. Has he been a great friend to me? Absolutely. Well, there's things that me and him have done, and I've done for him, and he's done for me when we were kids that I would never bring up. I posted a couple pictures of me and Mike. What was really cool about him, you talk about being a great teammate. One of the coolest things about Michael Irvin is what kind of teammate he was. Let me show you this here. So I got hurt in a Pitt game. I was playing Pitt, and I posted this picture. And here's the first one. Mike wore 47 in college. I hurt my this was Ironhead. This is the first time I got a pinch nerve. There's Mike. He's coming over from the offensive side to check on me. This is at Pitt Stadium, no longer there. And he came over. Then he said, "Big Sills, I love you. I will always love you." And we're just on the sidelines. We used to check on one another. 42 years later, we're still doing it. I sent him a text this morning and told him my family has prayers for him. Maybe one of the most misunderstood people you'll ever know. My daughter's always like this. Daddy's done some pretty questionable things. I said, when you love somebody, you got to take the good and the bad. So Michael Irvin's one of my closest friends. I love the man. Love his family. Family of 17 kids. 17 kids. Mike took care of every one of them. You know, the coolest thing about him was, and I know, yeah, you've probably heard this story, but Playmaker, hey, I don't like Mike Irvin because of his jersey he wore, but how human we are. Good man, Mike, look out for the lady that loves you. That's a great example of the money doesn't matter. The man does. Man, Sandy's a great woman. It's a great woman. I remember when he was 17 years old and I was 18 years old. And I've told Yale and some of you guys this. Guy used to have a stopwatch around his neck. I'm a year older than Mike. And I was a year older in college than him. And he's like, see this, Sills? 4 or 5. I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This guy would run a mile frontwards, backwards after practice, 3-hour Jimmy Johnson practices. That guy worked his ass off like nobody's business. He worked his ass off to be a legend, not just to be good. Man, he worked so hard. That was the coolest thing about being around all them guys like Jerome. We had guys like that, Jerome Brown, Testaverde, Brett Perriman, Cortez Kennedy, Russell Maryland. All these guys we had, they were superstar. Alonzo Highsmith, all these guys, just superstar players. And they worked so fucking hard. I mean, like I told you, your coach, Buddy Ryan, used to come down and watch us and just go like this and marvel and go, how do you get these guys to practice this hard? Can I tell you how they got us to practice this hard? Because we were afraid. We were afraid. You know what I mean by that? We had no options. There were no options. You weren't just going to live a great life. You may not live. Many of the kids I lived with were gangsters, sold drugs at night, were actual selling weed and cocaine. Many of the teammates I had, because it was a way of making money down in Overtown or Liberty City. I went down there and watched it. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Hey, Sills, I'm not from this. I'm like, when they realized that I was raised by my aunt and my grandparents, I didn't have mom and dad either. I was put in churches as a young kid. We were all like that. We were all like that. My grandfather used to find me, and I used to be in this church orphanage. My grandfather would come down and find me. There were 90 of us like that. Nobody had a crying story. Everyone was in that boat. Eddie Brown, remember guy? Hey, do you remember Eddie Brown, wide receiver, first round, went to the Bengals? This guy's had dirt on the roof, or grass on the roof, dirt on the ground, and a potbelly stove that she was feeding 10 kids in this place. And I'm eating dinner in there. I had never been anything like it. I'm down in Belglades, Florida. And Eddie's like, you know, a lot of my teammates won't come down here that look like you, Sills. I go, well, I'm Italian, so I'll never pass on a good meal. Okay? I'll never pass on a good meal. Mother loved me, man. As soon as he got that contract with the Bengals, bought her a $500,000 home. Right there in Homestead. It's really great. Michael was part of that too. Father left. Had nobody. His mom raised everybody. Whew. Man, his mom was something else. We played the Florida Gators. Every year we come down. She'd come down and bring down these greens, these chitlins and shit. We'd have it. We're going to play up there or down here. And Mrs. Irvin would bring all her food down. Jerome's mom would bring her food down from Brooksville. Shit, I didn't have Southern food before. I never ate it. I ate Italian food, Chinese food, seafood. It was the greatest education I ever had in my life. Was going to school with those men. What did I have? 2 black people in my Catholic high school when I was at Stanford Catholic. I got down there and I learned what it's about to be on a team and be part of a community. And Michael was a part of that. Took me around everywhere, along with Jerome. Sileo, wear your jersey. Wear your jersey. I'm like, why? Well, you know, let them know you're a Cane. I'm like, what's that matter? Well, you know, I see a guy coming in there, rolling in there. He's as wide as the line in the highway. I don't know. You might want to wear your jersey. So I wear my jersey, man. These guys are all cool. I go in there and I start eating food with them. I start becoming part of the community. Michael Irvin and I would go and do camps down in Overtown, right where the riots were. The cops killed those kids. We'd go down in there. There I was with Luther Campbell and all them guys. It was one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life. changed my life. And that's why we won, because we love one another. It wasn't about race. It's about getting along. And Michael Irvin was a lot high strung. I'll say that. Mike asked me to stand up for him a couple times, and I did. I had no problems. It's the greatest education I ever had in my life, was being raised a Miami Hurricane. It was wonderful. I wouldn't change it for the world. And being raised around Mike for 4 years, 3.5 years, was wonderful. So my prayers go out to him and Sandy. I love that man. I love that man with my entire heart. It's not who you think. Hey, you don't want Michael Irvin on the opposing team because you'll hate him, but you want him on your team. You'd want him on your team. That's a guy you want on your ball team. Because that's a guy who's going to die on the vine for you. You don't want to see that guy coming at you because you're going to have to hit him with a chair or shoot him, because he ain't going to stop till he wins. Seals, you're a good friend of all these guys. Oh, I love him to death. Love him to death. Danny Stubbs, all them guys. We still stay in touch to this day. My birthday, George Meyer Jr. sent me a text the other day on the anniversary of Sean Taylor being killed, because he was there when he died. I'm like, yeah, man. He goes, once a Cane, always a Cane, brother. It's only us against the world. I'm like, yep. Or I'll get Jonathan Vilma going, how's my favorite racist? I had to do it. On my birthday, I get that text to this day. How's my favorite racist? I'm like, will you stop? And please don't ever tell anyone that you send that to me all the time. Vilma laughs his ass off. I'll never live that down. And by the way, I don't care about the media. I just won't live it down with Vilma. He brings it up every year. Oh, hey, Wayne. It had nothing to do with football. It had everything to do with love with each other. I had never seen poverty before like that. Well, my mom was not very well off. She wasn't. And that's why I was put in those churches, and I had to stay there numerous times, and my grandpa had to find me. My aunt knows that. Well, my aunt takes care of me to this day because of that time. I should be put in those convents with the nuns and such. And my grandpa come find me in Norwalk, Connecticut. There I was looking out the top of a church with about 200 other kids, because my mom had put me there. And when they found that out, Michael Irvin and everybody, oh my God, Sills is like us. I'm like, well, you hadn't seen my aunt's house yet. Hey, you hadn't seen you hadn't seen that. But hey, all good. All right. Where are we in the like list right now? We are going to look at the Baltimore Ravens. We'll reset a little bit here, but I want to send some love out there. Robert, I love Miami. I love the University of Miami. I love South Florida. It is home. I just absolutely love 172. All right, guys, we're 28 away. I absolutely love South Florida. I will always be a South Florida guy. And I just love that I was raised there with all those great men. I wouldn't change it for the world. You got to see the message before that. The best part of football is the knot on your cleats. You got to get out there. You and me. I just rewatched video too. South Florida has beautiful women. Absolutely. I didn't know what a Cuban woman looked like until I got down there. And then when I saw it on the beach, I was like, yeah, okay, all right, we're good. Easy, Robert. All right. Hit the like button. We'll reset. We'll take a look at the Baltimore Ravens. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Listen, if we even think you owe us money, you won't know what hit you. We'll put liens on everything you own. Raid your bank accounts, retirement fund, pension. You'll open up your paycheck and cry because we'll already have the money. We'll haul you into federal court and you might even go to jail. Hey, it's our job.
Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. Our experts will fight for you using IRS guidelines to stop any IRS actions like bank levies or wage garnishments. Plus, eliminate penalties and interest and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
I'd have my mom call the number on the screen. You come see me alone. We'll work it out.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills National Football Show. Please hit the like button. We are at around 176 likes away. We're about 24 away from getting to 200, and we so appreciate each and every single one of you. I want to bring this up before we get into looking at the Week 14 opponent for the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. So I want to show you the hypocrisy that goes on in the National Football League. So the Dallas Cowboys have just signed an agreement with a slot machine company, a gaming company called Aristocrat Gaming. And if a player bets on a respected game, he's suspended for a year. How is it okay for you and not me? I'm the one that moves the needle on your team, not you. You're a fucking owner. I'm Tom Brady. How is it okay for you to make money off me with gambling? And if I gamble on a turtle race, I'm suspended? Or if I have somebody place a $2 bet on last night's basketball game, I'm suspended. Why? Gambling's legal. You know why? Because the National Football League doesn't want the players to benefit from the gambling until they negotiate it in the new CBA. The owners are making it so, look, so you're having a Super Bowl in Las Vegas and the players can't gamble. You can't be any more of a hypocrite than that. I mean, you can't. and you suspend me? I mean, I'd like to see one of these guys take it to a courtroom and to a Supreme Court, and I would like to challenge the NFL on that. You have no right to sell commercial ads during a Super Bowl that I'm helping promote your sport, and I can't be involved with the product that you're using my image when it comes to promoting the NFL. I would like to have that challenged. I get you own the game, but you don't own my image. This is a little bit of NCAA in it. You sell my image, my ability every Sunday to generate money with gambling. They're not investing in Bob Kraft or Jerry Jones. They're investing in the style of play and the players on the field, which means you're taking advantage of my image. You can throw a game. So wait a minute here. It's always a good take. You can throw a game. So you're trying to tell me you don't think an owner calls up another owner and says, hey, what's his name is not hurt, or what's his name is hurt, and he's not going to play this weekend. When you're making some type of trade around the trading deadline, let me ask you this, Yale. So around the trading deadline, we can't trade that player because that player's injured. George Kittle's injured? Yeah, he's not playing this weekend. Oh, so that guy who is a general manager has direct knowledge of a player that could impact a point differential and a point spread. Can he not? And Hurts can throw a game. I'm not throwing anything for $50 million. That's why these quarterbacks are also making that kind of money. You pay a guy $65 million. You think I'm betting $3 million of my life away and a $250 million contract because I want to do a $3 million bet? I have to be a complete degenerate for that. No, thank you. I have no interest in that. Now, you want to start putting up $1 billion bet and maybe I throw a game over $2 billion bucks. Now we're talking here. I'm not going to rob 7-Eleven. I'm robbing Fort Knox. That's how I've always looked at it. You know, me, somebody goes, Sills, no way, no thank you. I'm not robbing 7-Eleven. Now, if you want, there's a way to rob in Fort Knox, let me know about it. I saw that guy for the NBA who got busted, or the guy for like the Padres who got busted. He was betting $300 bets. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You make $2 million bucks a year. You're out of your mind. Players aren't the brightest. Hey, way to stereotype, Twiz. I didn't realize you were part of that crew. But thank you. I get it now. Hey, bet on your own team, maybe. Okay. What's wrong with that? Hey, I bet $1,000 that I win against the that I beat the Mavericks. I don't know what's wrong with that. But where does the NFL come off thinking that they're higher? Oh, it's their game. So it's okay for them, but the players can't. Okay. All right. Please hit the like button here. Want to say something before we get into the Baltimore Ravens here. Zach Bond has become a guy that the Philadelphia Eagles are falling more and more in love with. Was he a third rounder in New Orleans? Was he a third rounder down there? Or was he a UDFA? Because they are loving this guy. They are loving him. They think they have him right now as a starting inside linebacker next to Devin White. Okay? They do. They like him. You know who people are making the comparisons of TJ Edwards. Yo, Sills, Brady was a sixth. He was a sixth. No question. Look at the guys that were drafted ahead of him. Always remember this, Wayne. Patriots missed 5 times on them. Seals, do we make a trade for an edge rusher or wait for the salary cap casualty? Patience. Wait for around the first week of the first week before the season, right after Labor Day. Okay? Right after Labor Day, that's when you'll see some casualties. This Joey Bosa thing is weird. I heard that he's taking a pay cut. I heard he's taking a pay cut. You know what I mean? I mean, so and Bosa held out for $500,000. Bond was pick 74, round 3. That's crazy, Robert. Back in the day, I was a third round. I was the 57th player taken. And that was third round back then. But then again, there were only 28 teams back then. In 1987, there were 28 teams. Jags weren't around. Carolina wasn't around. Houston wasn't around. One other team. Jacksonville, Carolina, Houston, Baltimore wasn't around. 4 teams weren't around, so probably affected. Yeah, I was the 57th player taken. Yep, there were 28 teams when I played. And I told my daughter this. Check this out, guys. Back then, you only kept 47 guys. Now, you have 53 and 20 with practice squad. 73 players make a football team today in the NFL. I was the last player cut, last player on 2 teams, Dallas and Detroit. I was the last player cut. I'd have played 10, 15 years in this league. Keep 73 guys today? Shit, Barrett Brooks would have paid 25 years. You only kept 47 guys back then. That's right, James. When I played against the James, played against the Arizona Cardinals that when they were in St. Louis in 87. James, Phoenix was in Arizona. I mean, Phoenix was still in St. Louis my rookie year. Yeah, practice squad guys make money. And by the way, veteran guys get on that practice squad. 73 guys. And they didn't have practice squads. And you couldn't hide players back then. They tried to. Yeah, they were St. Louis Cardinals. I'd have played 15, 20 years in today's NFL. 73 guys make a team? Holy shit. You don't really have to be great. Man. That's why we went to Canada, played in other leagues. Yep, Neil Lomax was the quarterback. I played against him my rookie year there. Hey, Philly 4x4, you ready for this? We were up 28-0 and lost in St. Louis. I think it's like the 4th. If you guys Google it, Buccaneers 1987. We went in there. Jack Buck was calling the game too, believe it or not. And we had like a 28-0 lead. I think Steve DeBerg was our quarterback because I don't think Vinny started that game. And we went in there and we were up 28-0 and lost. It's like the 4th biggest comeback in NFL history. We gave that game up, man. It was terrible. The Noga kids were there, Peter and Nico. And I'm really good friends with the Noga family because I made All-American with Al, who played at Hawaii. They all played at Hawaii. But Nico and the other brother played on the Cardinal team too. I think all the Noga kids were in the NFL at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Good God. Hey, man, right? Sills had to take the snap with the elite. Hey, man, back then, 47 guys. Get this. I had a guy, Ron Hughes, and I've told you the story. He was the general manager. Worst story in the world. One of my days when I got cut. Holy shit. I started every game, all 5 games for the Lions in the exhibition season. I did so great. They had a guy, Lawrence Pete, who was holding out, was a backup behind Jerry Ball. And Jerry was like, Sileo's better. And Lamar Leachman was coaching me, and Lamar said, I want Sileo. You can let go, Lawrence. I'll take him. Well, Ron Hughes walks in, knocks on the door. My roommate was Chris Spielman and Mark Spindler. So we're sitting in there. And Lomas Brown, who I played against in college when he was at Florida. And he walks in, he goes, listen here. Everybody in the organization doesn't want you released. Go in there and make a pitch for yourself. It was Wayne Fonts. And his brother had coached at the University of Miami when I was there. So I go up to his office. He's like, look, I'm going to stick with Pete. You're good enough to make this team. And I'm going to tell you, because some of you guys know the punchline to this story. I'm sure my wife's going to laugh because she's listening. So I get there and he goes, I'm going with Pete. They kept me around for 2 weeks. So I got a credited year. Wait, Yale, it gets better. Fast forward. We go to a Buccaneer alumni. And I'm sitting at this Buccaneer alumni. And Wayne had been on the staff with Joe Gibbs when Coach McKay. And it was he sits down next to me, Wayne Fonts. Hey, Coach, how you doing, man? My wife's sitting on the other side. She was my girlfriend at the time. And I have Rich McKay in front of me. You guys have seen him. He's been on the program numerous times. And Rich McKay was on. He's sitting in front of me talking. Sure enough, he's sitting next to me, and he looks over at my wife then, my wife now, my girlfriend then. One of the biggest mistakes I made was not keeping him. It really was a mistake because Lawrence got hurt and Dan was better. And I said, Coach, that's really cool. As soon as he got up, my wife goes, hey, fuck that guy. Rich McKay goes, did she just tell the guy from the Detroit Lions or former head coach to go fuck himself? I said, I believe she did. Dude, he's sitting there. Joe Gibbs is there. We're all going. My wife goes, fuck that guy. I could not believe we're in a suite that the Glazers had put us in. We're watching this game, and my wife goes just like this. Hey, fuck that guy. It was a Buccaneer alumni day. Oh, my God. Rich McKay looks over at me and goes, is she just telling Wayne Fonts to go fuck himself? Joe Gibbs goes, that was one of the classiest things I've ever. And I'm going like, my wife just was so pissed that he said that. Everyone was there. I forget too, man. I think John Gruden was up there. He laughed. Oh. Yeah, she was like, fuck that guy. Oh, man. It was because it was really it was a terrible move that they made. Hey, Robert, it's tough to see the nonsense that's in the NFL. But Xander knows how my wife can be. All right, man. Hey, where are we on the like list here, man? Yeah, you know what? That's what I felt too, Robert, or that's what my wife felt. Hey, you look, easily I could be patted on the back and shit. My wife didn't want any of that. She wanted none of that, man. She just was like, hey, fuck that guy. Yeah. 183. We're 17 away. Come on, guys. Let's go. You're trying to get to 200. Says you got a football wife. I do. All right. Week 14 opponent for the Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens. How good do you think this football team will be this year? How good do you think this Ravens team will be? Barry Sanders was on that team. Hey, Chuck, seriously, I had a $140 watch that I bought at Costco or one of them places. Barry goes like this. Wow, man, that's a really nice watch. I took it off my wrist and I go, here. He goes, no. What is it? $500? I go, it's $140 here. And he goes, and this guy's making $5 million at the time. And I go, take the damn watch. Took me out to dinner. He couldn't believe that I would take it off my wrist like that. He goes, that's a really nice watch. I go, here, take it. And he's like, no, I couldn't afford. I go, Barry, you make $5 million a year. He goes, I live on $35,000 a year. My dad puts everything else away from me. And I was like this, what? He goes, yeah, everything's taken care of, but I live on like $35,000, $40,000. And I was like, okay, here's the watch. 11 and up. Ravens should be a Super Bowl contender. Do you think age catches up with Henry? No, I do not. I personally got him at 12 wins. Ravens AFC champions. Twiz has him at between 12 and 14. Floor 10, ceiling 13. Ravens will be good, as always. Yes. Agreed. All right. Here's how I look at your 14 and week 14 opponent, the Baltimore Ravens. It's one of my favorite franchises. And it's one of my favorite organizations in pro football, or the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is absolutely a great talent. Two-time Super Bowl winner, two-time MVP by the age of 26. Youngest man ever to win the Most Valuable Player awards, multiple, by the age of 26. And the one last nugget that the legendary Ozzie Newsome, can you imagine this? The last year Ozzie Newsome is the general manager of the football team. And I've got to tell you a story. And I hate that I have to tell you that one of my friends did it, who's been on this show, Tom Telesco. Ozzie Newsome, his last golden nugget that he left as general manager. He still works as a special consultant to the GM and owner, Steve Biscotti. But at the combines, Lamar didn't want to run. And Ozzie's like, you're not going to run? He goes, are you going to throw? He goes, no, I'm throwing at Louisville. Why don't you want to run? He goes, because I don't want people stereotyping me. And he's like, you know what Tom Telesco said? And I love Tom Telesco. Hey, Lamar, maybe you should run some routes. I've never said who said that. It was Tom, the current general manager of the Raiders. Hey, Lamar, why don't you run some routes? I was like, you can't tell a black player who won the Heisman Trophy at Louisville to run routes without giving him a chance to fail at quarterback. Remember the kid Pryor, who was a quarterback at Ohio State. What was his name? The first name? It's not Aaron. It was something Pryor. He was a quarterback at Ohio State. He wasn't going to be a good quarterback, and he did end up playing wide receiver. They found another position for him, and he played a couple of years, I think, for the Raiders. That's one thing. But to sit there and go to Lamar Jackson, hey, why don't you run a couple routes? You're like this. Terrell Pryor. Thank you, Twiz. You're like, dude, that's borderline's racist. You didn't tell Tim Tebow to run routes at the combines. You don't tell a black player that. So many things, the way you talk to white and black players is still to this day so over the line. You can't say that. You just can't say that shit because it's not fair and cool. But he left this one nugget. 32nd player drafted. In that draft, what draft was he drafted? Who were quarterbacks that were taken ahead of him in that draft? Wasn't it like Josh Rosen and dudes like that were taken ahead of him? I mean, he was the 32nd pick. He was the last player taken in the first round by Ozzie. And Ozzie said, I'm taking the kid. He goes, no, he'll never make it. Josh Allen was in that draft too. Okay, sounds right. Okay, 32nd pick. Now is a two-time MVP. Whew. Here's the problem that you have, though, with the Ravens. There's a bunch of player and coaching exits. Denard Wilson, the former DB coach for the Eagles, is now the defensive coordinator in Tennessee. So, I mean, they've lost a bunch of people on that side of the ball, coaching-wise as well. And player-wise, especially on defense, Patrick Queen is no longer in the building. They lost guys up front. They got a tremendous kicking game, one of the best guys in the league. And, of course, the addition of Henry. Todd Monken did a wonderful job as the coordinator did a wonderful job with Lamar Jackson until they got to the playoff game where they threw the ball 37 times. That's a perfect example. If Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are throwing the ball 37 times in a game as an average, you're not going to win that game. But I think Jalen's going to throw the ball that many times. And I think you're going to struggle because of that dynamic. This season for the Eagles is going to come down. Are you willing to go back to doing the things that made you great? Or are you going to continue to go down the road that is the unknown? Let's just say, I don't know if Jalen will succeed or not, but I do know that 22 road was successful. I do know that. Okay? I don't know what 24 is going to look like, nor do you. I knew what 23 looked like. And if you're going down that same kind of dynamic, I think 24 is going to resemble 23. See, Xander and some folks still believe that the Eagles are going to implement some of 22 stuff because it's common sense. Since when do the Eagles have common sense in developing quarterbacks? You hire a coordinator with no experience. Where's the common sense in that? Because he's his buddy? Where was the common sense? Where was the common? Oh, now you go to Kellen, who's an experienced coordinator. What happened last year? Or is that Nick, as some people think? I can't believe there's actually people in our media that believe that guy has say, when folks are telling you he has none. Even the coach at his press conference says, well, I'm not around Jalen as much. So he hired Kellen and he's out of the picture? I'll tell you what, that's a lot of balls from a guy who's on the hot seat. That's what you're suggesting? If you were on the hot seat, wouldn't you be closer to the fire so in case it got out of hand, you could put it out? Or would you really distance yourself from the forest fire? Is that what you're thinking? Like if Kellen Moore, he blows up, I'm out of Philly. And you would allow that? Knowing full well your next job may dictate how you're handling all this. I don't buy it. I know this. I'm not putting my faith here. So I'm the captain of a ship that just hit an iceberg, and I'm going to go to sleep and let the guy take over. And he's got my fate in his hands, and I'm going to go away from the deck and go to bed and have it in his hands. And if the ship goes down, it goes down. He puts us down, and I'm not going to have any say whether I could save the boat with some of the experience that I've been through. I don't buy that. Nobody in their right mind. Here, let's do this. I should have did this as Xander. If your company was going down, would you allow people to program your network? Hire somebody who you don't know, you kind of heard of. You've got some inclination on who he is. Would you allow him to run your network? And you go to bed? And not be involved in anything or the decision makings? And every decision that you make could be a catastrophic financial decision? Would you allow that? I don't know. I'd have my hand. I'd be closer to the fire. Closer to the fire so I could put it out. Correct. they still love the ground game in Baltimore. That's the one thing the Eagles don't do. They don't love the ground game. Got away from it. Health on the field is going to be a total issue. Derrick Henry said that he is healthier now than he's been in the last 5 years. That's scary. That is absolutely scary. That he's saying that he feels as good as he's felt any time in the last 5 years. Guy's a workhorse, and he's frightening. I would tell you this. Adrian Peterson is probably one of the most physical backs that we've seen in the last 20 years. I would tell you Henry's more physical. The way he blows people up, that guy makes highlight reels out of people. I would tell you this, and I don't know if Xander would agree. You name me a better offensive football player that came out of Alabama during the Nick Saban time that was more physically and utterly gifted, that is a transcending player like that he had on offense. Just think about it. Julio Jones, probably the closest. Who else? Devontae? He ain't no Derrick Henry. Amari Cooper? Judy? Najee? Name me a player on offense in the 13 years or 12 years he was there at Alabama that you would put ahead of Derrick Henry. I mean, that guy is a frightening dude when he runs. Jacobs, maybe. Kyle, I was shocked how good he was. He had a really good rookie year up there last year. Henry Ruggs was a good ball player, man. Unfortunate situation. Ended what it could have been. Could have, absolutely. That's right, Slagger. In 2023, we came from behind more. In 22, we had the lead and dominated football teams. No question about it. Third and short, killed people, man. How about those 14 plays? Hey, Forrest, how many times did you look up? Telling Xander this. How many times did you look up and go, damn, there's only 1:30 left in the first quarter? Mark Ingram was a good player. He ain't no Derrick Henry. O-line is not what it was in the past. The kid Stanley, I think when he got injured, I don't think he's recovered to the form he was a couple of years ago where he was one of the best left tackles. Mark Andrews is a heck of a player. And to Yale's point, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, it's a pretty good little combo. Plus you put Henry in that. So you got Henry, Andrews, Zay Flowers. And you got Lamar. That's not bad. You're gonna win. You're gonna win games. You want to hear a tremendous stat here for Derrick Henry, or excuse me, for Lamar Jackson. Here's one of the most impressive stats. Lamar Jackson has won 2 MVP awards by the age of 26, and he's 58-19 as a starting quarterback. I couldn't have been more wrong about a guy. Kudos to you, dude. Congratulations on proving everyone on the planet wrong. I didn't think this guy would be, after I watched him versus the Chargers in a playoff game, I didn't think he'd be in the league. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And 4 years after, he's got 2 MVPs and he's 58-19. You can't be any more wrong than I was. I'm not saying I'm the only guy that was wrong on him, but that's unbelievable. I get it. 2-4 in the playoffs. Jalen's 2-3. Has he been to a Super Bowl? Kind of tough to get to a Super Bowl with Brady and Manning and Mahomes in the AFC, don't you think? It's kind of crowded over there. It's kind of crowded. I agree. Yeah, you want to be one of those higher echelon guys, you got to get over the hump. You totally have to get over the hump. Completely. But 58-19, 2 MVP awards, and that elusive Super Bowl. It's the only thing on this resume that's not validating everything. Plus, what is he, the 4th highest paid quarterback at $52 million? This guy is something else. Will he win a Super Bowl? I don't know. I think coaching guys like Jalen, you know what? I don't think I've said this, but I think coaching guys like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are the toughest skill set quarterbacks to coach. I think they're so difficult because they rely on so much more. Hey, don't you think if Tom Brady could have ran more in his career, he would have? The only reason Tom Brady couldn't run more or didn't run more because he couldn't. Or how about Peyton Manning? Don't you think those guys would have loved to have taken off? How wide open the field was if they could have just took off? They would have ran. They would have ran too. Brady said it. He goes, hey, the reason I didn't run is because I couldn't run. So when you manage that, is Lamar and Jalen great passers? No. Are they great runners? Yeah. But putting all those together, are they tough to defend? Absolutely. And when the Eagles start dissecting that one part of the dynamic where they're not going to utilize what made him great, you're defeating the purpose of what separates him from Brady. This has been my conversation with you, why it comes off as hating. Because you think I'm shitting on him. No, I'm more so shitting on the way they're coaching him. You're right. You get this. The Eagles have done so much for Jalen. I think they're doing a lot up in Baltimore for him. Todd Monken, Zay Flowers. They just extended Mark Andrews, trying to improve the O-line. Okay? There's only so much you can do before you have to realize maybe something we're doing is wrong. You see, the Eagles think coaching was wrong. What they don't realize is the coaching decisions they made was wrong. You gotta pick one or the other. Is it the quarterback? Or is it the coaching? If it's the coaching, that means you didn't hire the right people. If it's the quarterback, that means you're paying the wrong guy. Which is it? Can it be both? Like Xander and Ellie, you were saying, okay, there's no more to do here. And that's why I think Jalen's feeling I think Jalen feels more pressure this year than any year in his career. You know why? There's no way there's an off-ramp. Hey, Brian Johnson, inexperienced coordinator. Okay, you can land on that. You can. If you want to be a complete apologist for Hurts, you can land on that. Well, you got him a $10 million back. You know what? Can I tell you what the excuse is going to be? If Jalen doesn't have a great 24? No, Jason Kelsey. And another coordinator. Oh, no, Nick. Xander's right. They're setting him up. He's being set up. And Nick is doing things to protect himself. So if he does get fired, he'll be able to have an opportunity to interview for another job. So when you're looking at this Ravens team, he's in the same boat. How many wins do I think this Ravens team can go through? I think they're a 12, 13 win team. My question mark is going to be more so on the other end with defense. They've lost a lot of coaches. And they've also lost talent on that side of the football. So to me, 12, 13 looks good. But can I tell you, this reminds me a little bit of the Eagles. They're kind of with a lot of talent on offense, but their defense is a little bit suspect, especially in the coaches that they have. He really doesn't get the ball to the tight end. Lamar? Well, the tight end is one of the highest paid guys in the league at his position. And he's considered one of the better tight ends. He was injured a year ago. And Yale's right. That AFC North, every single football team from the AFC North can make the postseason. It's the best division in football. Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. There's no better division in pro football than the AFC North. None. Look at the quarterbacks that are in that division. Sean Watson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Now you got Russell Wilson. Look at the quarterbacks you got in the NFC East. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Daniels, and Daniel Jones. You got two bums in that division. At least Russell Wilson's won a Super Bowl. I think the NFC West is going to be a pretty interesting. And look at the coaches, too. Zach Taylor's been to a Super Bowl. John Harbaugh's won one. Mike Tomlin's won one. I mean, that entire division is insane. The quarterbacks and the head coaches and the organizations are fabulous. Steelers have a Super Bowl head coach and a Super Bowl quarterback. The Browns have a coach who is a two-time NFL Coach of the Year in Kevin Stefanski. And you've got Deshaun Watson there, $230 million guaranteed. And you got Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Zach Taylor's been to a Super Bowl as a head coach. And then, of course, you got John Harbaugh and Lamar. Cosmo asks a great question. Seals, do you think Watson is a bust for the Browns? After this year, ask me that question again, Cosmo. It's got to happen now, or it'll go down as one of the absolute worst contracts, if not the worst contract of all time, and that includes the Russell Wilson contract. Why? Because you got $230 million in guarantees and all the first-rounders you gave up. There's no coincidence that Houston looks like they're in a better place for the future. Look at what they just went through. They got the offense and defensive player of the year rookie-wise last year, C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. And they did that off the picks they got because of Watson. I mean, Nick Caserio is going in the right direction in Houston. Who would have thought Houston would be in a better position? I'm not saying Cleveland doesn't have a good front office there with what Andrew Berry's done. But that AFC North is going to be quite a fight. All four of those teams, like I said, can make it to the postseason. Who wins the AFC North? Do the Ravens? I don't think so. They could win 12 games. I think it's the Bengals, and it's the health of the Bengals. If Joe Burrow's standing up for 17 games, that guy could win the Super Bowl. That guy could win the Super Bowl. And I actually like their backup. That guy, Jake Browning, who they just gave a contract extension to. I actually dig him too. But dude, what a race that is going to be. That's going to be a very tough. Hey, by the way, let me ask you this. Do you think you have the defense to defend Lamar Jackson in week 14? You think you have two? I heard Xander talking about his linebackers today on Birds 365. You think you guys have the defense to stop Lamar and Derrick Henry? You better not play. And this is week 14. So you got to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on week 14 with that defense. Good luck. You better be sure tacklers. That's all I'm saying. I've seen him shut down too. 2 of them on the same field together? Hey, Yale, I believe you'll shut one of them down. Both of them? I don't know. And with that defense, it was 31st last year. You ain't stopping Derrick Henry. And who's stopping the Eagles? Well, the Eagles stopped themselves. Forrest goes, we stopped Henry before. Not Henry and Allen. Not Henry and Jackson on the same field and in the same huddle. You haven't. They're on the same team now. They're on the same team. All right. Hit the like button, my friends. We're at 198. 2 more to go. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwood.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. Guys, get over 200. Thank you so much. By the way, Forrest, just to tell you this, man, Carson Wentz is doing very well in Kansas City, and Andy Reid loves him. And says some of the comments that have been made about Carson Wentz not being a good clubhouse guy. That's not what Mahomes is saying. He's engaging. He's there at practice. He's helping younger players. He's doing everything they ask him to do. Sometimes when you just get around a situation that actually wants to embrace you and there's no pressure, maybe it's going to help the kid. Hey, I'm not making excuses for him because he bombed out at the end in Kansas City. But you got to root for him. Let him hopefully fulfill his destiny again. Hey, look, man, how would you like to be on a football team that you were drafted number 1 and your substitute teacher came in and won the Super Bowl and was the MVP? There's no way of you ever erasing that in Philadelphia. He had no chance after that Super Bowl of being successful. None. He had no chance, no matter what he did, because of what happened. Is he weak for folding? Yes. Absolutely. Okay? Yes. By the way, sure would have been nice for the organization to have built an offense around Carson Wentz like they did around Hurts. Think they learned their lesson? Think about that. They never did anything like that for Carson Wentz. He threw the trash cans. He never, hey, by the way, he probably fits more into Kansas City because Kansas City resembles what he was throwing to in Philadelphia. How can you throw for $4,000? Think about this. How can you throw for $4,000 and not one wide receiver on the team had more than 500 yards receiving? How's that possible? Nobody that was a wideout on that team when he went for $4,000. Hurts has 2 guys that have gone 1,000 yards back to back, and he can't throw for 3,900. How's that possible? Can you imagine if they would have put Saquon Barkley around him? Devontae, AJ? O-line was good. Not his final year, though. Okay? I mean, think about that. Nobody on that year when he threw for $4,000. Incredible. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Wentz got through his progressions. He's a better passing quarterback than Hurts. He's a single-season touchdown guy and also yardage guy. It's not a debate, really. He's not the same winner he is. But you don't get to the Super Bowl without him winning home field advantage either. So anyway, guys, awesome stuff. Merrill Reese will be with us tomorrow. We're going to congratulate him on his winning of the Pete Rozelle Award, which puts him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Joe, thank you. Xander, thank you. We will see you tomorrow 2 to 6, and we will catch you on the flip side.